Would you like to make a stunning Valentine wreath? You came to the right place. In today's video, I have put together top 25 Valentine wreaths. And it's not only decomesh wreaths. I included some super easy wreaths that anyone can do. I have Rocco with me and I think he's sleeping. But we are ready to get started on our top 25 Valentine wreaths. For today's curly wreath, I'm going to be using 4 different rolls of decomesh. While my decomesh is all 10 inches by 10 yards or 30 feet, this is a great technique to use on some leftover decomesh that you can mix and match with the colors that go with your decor, and you can have a beautiful wreath using your leftovers. Then you're going to need some sort of a cutting tool, a rotary cutter, scissors, or even a heating tool. I'm going to be using a 14-inch wreath form from the Dollar Tree. This one is in gray or silverish color. When choosing a centerpiece for this wreath, you can use one of the bigger ones because of the sheer volume that this wreath is going to be. This one is 12 inches in diameter. And we're also going to need some pipe cleaners. Before I start cutting decomesh, let's talk about the bundles and how much we're going to need to make this wreath. If you're using 3 colors, we're going to put 5 bundles in each section. When we add the 4th one, obviously 5 is going to be a little too much. So we're only going to be putting 4 in each section. That means we're going to need 24 bundles, 10-inch strips of each color. When I have so much decomesh, it's easy to cut them when you just layer them and cut. But because there's 4, I feel like that's a little too much. So I'm just going to separate 2 of these. Grab my little bin. This is the bin I usually use. And as I always say, you can use a shoebox, whatever you have on hand. And I'm just going to put 2 rolls in here. Layer them one on top of the other. Let me move it to the side. And now I'm just going to be using my rotary cutter and I'm going to be cutting into 10-inch strips. This little guy is just so smooth. I love using this little rotary cutter. And now I have my red and white decomesh and I'm going to continue doing the same thing. Just cutting my mesh into 10-inch strips. I'm ready to get started on the bundles. All my decomesh is cut into 10-inch strips. I'm going to need some kind of a clamp, a clothespin, whatever you have on hand. I like using these little guys. They come 2 in a set from the Dollar Tree. Now for our pipe cleaners, I'm just going to grab them, fold them in half, and cut them. After I cut them in half, I'm just going to make a little V, and this is just to make it easier for me to grab. When I roll these, I like to roll them in about 1-inch diameter. The most important thing to me is not to make it too tight or too loose. So just that happy medium. There you go, and I crisscross them. Keep on going. And the red one. I have my 4, grabbing my piece of pipe cleaner, just going to wrap it around. And since it's a big bundle, I'm going to come from the back and just kind of squeeze it together. And there you go. You have your first bundle. This is going to be so much fun. And you just continue making your little curlies. And there's no particular order to go in. Just make your little curl. And whatever color is next, just keep on going. It's all going to balance out. I don't even pay attention which one I'm grabbing next. On the ones that are 4 decomesh rolls, it's just going to be a beautiful mesh of colors and it's going to look beautiful. Push it forward kind of towards the front and the back. There you go. Give it a little squeeze and you have a little tail and you have a beautiful curl. And now this is where things are going to repeat until I make my 24 bundles. And I'm going to turn on something on my computer, watch a movie or a show, and off I go making my curl bundles. I'm done with all my bundles and it's time to attach them to the wreath form, it's good to have some kind of wire cutters or clippers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my wreath upside down because it's easier to work like that. And I'm going to attach my bundles onto the 2 middle rows, so row 2 and 3. And I'm just going to wrap my pipe cleaners around and give it a few twists. If you're using full 12-inch pipe cleaners, you may want to use the clippers to cut them off, but it's pretty short, so I'm just going to bend the little tail back and you have a clean little attachment. And just like that, my first section is done. Look how full and beautiful this is going to be. I'm going to continue attaching all the bundles and then I'll be right back. I know I sped the process up on video, but as I'm putting on my last little bundle, I'm a little bit over 6.5 minutes to put on all of these bundles. Super quick, and as you see, easy and fun. Let's flip this over. Look how beautiful it is. I am loving the pop of gold here and there. Now I'm just taking our centerpiece. I want to see how it's going to look, and I think it's going to look beautiful. I'm going to try to set it back just a little bit and get these curls out. So I have 2 little attachments right here and right there. I'm going to grab some floral wire and we're going to attach our centerpiece. I'm grabbing some floral wire, and since this one is only 22 gauge, I'm a little bit weary about it, so I'm going to actually double it. I don't have a strong wire that's white. I only have the green one, and I think it will really show, so I'm just going to grab this white one and cut about, I don't know, 20 inches, and I'm going to put it through. In the back, I'm just going to give it 2 nice twists and then straighten my wire out so I can send it back to attach. Same thing with the second piece. Going to fold my wire and just send it back. Let's flip. Going to be attaching it on an intersection. So let's find that first one. There you go. And one side of the wire we're going to put on one side of the intersection. The other one, I'm going to go up a little bit actually and put it up there. And since I know I want it to be towards the inside a little bit, I'm going to pull it up and give it a few twists. I'm not locking it in at this point. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. After I have it set, I'm going to come back, do another twist. There you go. And I'm just going to twist that ending in place. Some of the curls I am going to leave in the back. That's what's going to kind of prop up our sign. And now it's time to cover the back. To cover the back, you can use 2 things. You can use a placemat and zip tie it in place, or we can use a steering wheel and wrap it around. Because this does kind of look messy in the back, I decided to use one of these placemats. Just place it in the center. I usually just attach in 3 spots. You can use floral wire, or I actually like using zip ties. I find them super easy and quick. And after I do a quick zip, I'm going to grab my little wire cutters, clip that off, and of course this little part that has the sharp end, I'm going to send it to the back. Once it's nice and attached, I'm going to go to the front and make sure that everything looks good. And I'm going to see where my top is. Grabbing a jute cord, going on an intersection, and I'm just going to make a few knots, send it to the back, and we have a hanging loop. At this point, my wreath is all done. It's nice and pretty. And I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and cut any of the strays. Don't pull them because sometimes you can damage the actual curl by pulling. Just snip off here and there and clean it up a little bit. And your wreath is all done. For this wreath, we are going to go black, white, and red. We're going to be using a pair of socks out of all things, and these are like the really high knee-high socks, and I did get these at the Dollar Tree. Then 2 of these heart picks, a foam wreath form that's 10 inches, and then some white 1.5-inch ribbon that's wired on the edges. I like to use the one from Costco. I already did this part, and that's to kind of carefully wiggle where you see the seam in one of these wreaths and take it apart, but do not pull it. We don't want to hurt it. Now I'm just going to cut the toe of the sock, and I'm going to wiggle the sock right into the wreath. Then the other side. I have this part right here towards the top. Next, I'm going to take a piece of the packing tape, and I'm going to bring the endings together using the tape. I've tried hot glue before. It does not work, but tape works the best. You can use some duct tape, whatever tape you have on hand. I'm just going to draw an invisible line and find my center, and that's where I'm going to hot glue the sock ending. And now I'm just going to dot the hot glue because I want it to be a little sporadic, and I don't want it to be too tight because all of this is a little bit on the looser side. So I'm just going to do little dots of hot glue, and it's going to hold in place. And now it's really hard to tell where that line is. Next, I'm just going to pull this in and hot glue it on this side. I'm overlaying that and bringing it to this side. Since this part is in the back, you can either cut it out or just tuck it in, hot glue it, and make one smooth line. All right, look at this. So we have a beautiful wreath. Now I'm going to take my little hearts, and now I'm just going to lay them out just like that. At this point, you can attach it. You can take it out of this clip, but the thing is, when you take it out of the clip, it's going to lose the way it kind of is laid out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it the way it is. Grab a zip tie, and I'm going to go where I kind of lug this one in and lug this one in. There you go. I hope you can see the zip tie. It kind of caught on both of these, but it doesn't matter. We're going to get it nice and tight, and this is what we have so far. Now it's time to make our bow. As always, let's measure the tail we want, and then we're going to make a 4-loop bow. I think this will look super cute. Going to hot glue everything in place just with a dot of hot glue here and there. Then cutting off another piece of ribbon. I'm kind of keeping it on the bigger side in the middle because I want this part covered. So let's just do this part. And I'm going to kind of wiggle it in, but not too much. Then I'm going to scrunch it right here, kind of making a little wave. Bring this part in. Look how pretty this is looking. Cut off the excess tail. More hot glue in the back. And let's hot glue it to our actual wreath. Let me make sure that it covers everything in the back. Look at this. You can't see anything in the back. At this point, you can definitely leave it as is, but because we only have the hearts that are red on the outside, I kind of would like to balance things off. I'm going to grab a red heart, and this is just a vase filler from the Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of 24. A little hot glue, put it right in the center of the bow. What do you think? I think this wreath turned out so super cute. This is one of those wreaths that if you're a beginner, this is perfect for you, and it's going to turn out beautiful. Now you can either use one of these foam wreath forms and start with the flowers in the center and make your way out. But I wanted it to really bring out Valentine's, so I'm going to be using this as my wreath base. It does have the word love on it. We are just going to pop it off, and as you saw, that kind of popped off really easily. The hanging loop for this wreath, already taken care of. It's stapled to the back. For the flowers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with the borders. And my borders are going to be ivory. They're going to go on the outside, nice and tight next to each other, and then on the inside. And then I'm going to fill this part with the pink ones. Let's get started. Since this space is so small, I am going to put the pink one in, and then the white one, I want to be all the way at the edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom section. And now you just start filling them in. This is how it's filling in so far. How beautiful. And I'm just going to continue doing it a section at a time, nice and heavy on the hot glue, and just fill it in. At a certain point, there's this big area right here, and we're going to double up on the roses. So this one, I'm just going to do a rose at a time. All right, just look at how gorgeous and simple this wreath is. We're done with this side. We are about to do the same thing on the other side. Look at this. It looks like frosting on a cake or something because of the foam flowers. So super cute. At this point, you can either maybe do a little bow, but make sure the bow is very elegant and light. What I'm going to do is something different. I found this pearl garland at the Dollar Tree, and this is an ivory color, so I thought that would work really well. And then I'm going to just hot glue really lightly to the foam roses, the ivory on top of the pink, just like that. And I'm just going to give a little bit of hot glue to the big pearls on there, and I'm very loosely going to put this on. And that's it, with the pearls giving the wreath that last piece of elegance. I'm all done with this wreath. For this wreath, I'm going to be using this foam heart wreath that we've all seen at the Dollar Tree. If you have that in your area, then I'm going to use some beautiful velvet ribbon. And then at this point, grab whatever red and white florals, maybe little berries, whatever you have on hand. I have some of these pom-poms left over from Christmas that are red and white. Perfect. I have one pretty white rose, 2 red roses, and then I have this bouquet that has hearts in it. This is also from the Dollar Tree. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little pick, which is absolutely adorable, and I'm going to remove this metal part. Next thing you're going to need is some flowers. Cut those down if you have those. And then 3 of these hearts. For this bouquet, I decided to leave on the greenery. As with all Dollar Tree items, make sure your pieces are glued on well. The heart is really holding on well to this green part, but not to the actual stem. So I'm going to just do a little hot glue, and I'm going to take a few minutes to hot glue everything in place. Now let's put our bouquet together. One of my hearts had a little bit of baby breath on it. I'm going to use that as my top heart. Then I'm putting the next 2 hearts to the sides of that one. Then I'm bringing my pom-poms in. And then between the higher pom-poms and the lower pom-poms, I'm bringing some of these roses. And I'm going to bend them forward just a little bit. Same thing with this red rose. Basically, when you're putting a bouquet together, you need to layer the colors. If you have 2 colors, do red, white, or whatever the order you're going in. And now the white one, everything looks good. Grab that zip tie and let's zip tie this bouquet together. And about an inch from the zip tie, I'm going to cut all the greenery. Grabbing another zip tie, I'm going to go above the zip tie I have on my bow, and I'm going to zip tie to the actual heart. Now that our bouquet is in place, let's make the bow. This velvet ribbon is only 1 yard and is 2.5 inches in width, so it's not a big chunk of ribbon. This is all you get, but we don't need a lot for this one. I'm just going to make a bow. I decided to bring this bow together with floral wire just because of the fabric. And so let me just squeeze this in. And let's bring this bow together and twist it in the back. So I just made a very simple bow. I'm going to cut the other side of the tail. And now I'm just attaching the bow to the actual wreath form. And as you can see, it needs something right here. So what I decided to do is I'm going to grab one of the pom-poms that I have in the back. I'm going to clip that off. That was hidden anyway. And I'm just going to hot glue it to the center of the bow. Oh, well, this is just getting cuter by the minute. Now we're going to make some dovetails. So just fold your ribbon in half. And there you go. I decided to make the bow a little shorter just because of the proportions of the actual heart wreath. So I'm just cutting down the tail. There you go. I think it turned out so super cute and a little different using the Dollar Tree foam heart. To hang the wreath, I decided to bring in another piece of ribbon, and I'm going to cut this part off. Mine looks good here, but if you cut it off and a little bit of foam shows, just throw some hot glue on here and then scatter some red glitter and it's going to cover that up. Because of the balancing of all that weight being on this side, I'm just going to grab my piece of red ribbon and I'm going to tie it just right here. And then I'm going to, of course, hide that knot in the back. There you go. And this is how I'm going to hang the wreath. Let's go over the supplies we're going to need. The Deco mesh I'm going to be using is 10 inches by 10 yards. You're only going to need 1 roll. That's the beauty of this wreath. As far as for ribbon, you're going to need 2 different sizes of ribbon. For example, I'm going to be using 2 different kinds of 2.5 inch ribbon, and then I'm going to be using a 1.5 inch ribbon. For the first layer, I'm going to be using this ribbon. Now, this was thrifted and it's an old ribbon, but you can use whatever floral ribbon you have on hand, would work just fine. Or you can just do the whole wreath using just the 2.5 solid with this one. And look at this, I'm going to be using pink and this gold one is going to be on top. The picture that gave the theme for today is actually this little one I got at the Dollar Tree. It's just a handbag with some flowers on the inside. The measurement is 8 inches by 8 inches, so not big at all. Then we're going to need some pipe cleaners. You're only going to need 12 for the wreath form this time, not 18. Last and not least, I'm going to be using some of these beautiful ranunculus. I'm going to attach pipe cleaners a little bit differently today. Going to start by how we usually start, and we're going to grab a pipe cleaner and attach it to row 1 and 2 from the inside and just give it a twist. And then I'm going to put the pipe cleaner towards the inside of the wreath form. I attached 1 pipe cleaner to every section, which makes it 6 pipe cleaners. Now we're going to take our pipe cleaners and go on this intersection, and I'm going to go from row 2 to row 3 on the opposite sides. Then I'm going to go to row 3, and that is where I'm going to twist my pipe cleaner. The reason I do this is because it's more secure this way, and we do want to move this outside row a little bit further away from the inside row. And these pipe cleaners are going to face out. You can find a list of all the supplies I use for this wreath and pretty much all my wreaths in the description box below. That way, if you have any questions or maybe you're looking for a particular item, you can find it. Or sometimes maybe what it's called. All my pipe cleaners are attached. Now we're going to cut both the deco mesh and the ribbon. The way I attach everything to this wreath is going to be different than usual. I usually like to start on the inside and work my way out because these wreath forms from the Dollar Tree are on the flatter end and it's easier that way. The point of a pancake wreath is for it to be nice and flat, and therefore we're going to put on this outside row, then the inside row. For this wreath, I'm going to be cutting my deco mesh into 30-inch strips, and I'm going to need 12 strips. Because my cutting mat is only 24 inches, I'm grabbing my ruler and I'm going to go to 5.5 inches and put it to the side, which makes it 6 inches plus 24. I get my 30. When I cut my deco mesh, I like to throw it into an IKEA basket. You can use whatever you have on hand. Even a shoebox will do. And that way the deco mesh is not all over my table. Now let's start to cut. I'm just going to roll it naturally and cut my 12 strips. Next, I'm going to prepare all the ribbon. For my 2.5-inch ribbon, I'm going to do 12-inch strips, and I'm going to need only 6 of each. As usual, I'm zigzagging until I'm going to get 6 strips, and then I'm going to cut and make dovetails at the same time. Now I'm going to be folding the ribbon in half and cutting a little triangle, making sure that I cut the little edges on the side. If you're using the same ribbon for both layers of the wreath, then just cut 12 of these. In my case, I'm using 2 different ribbon types for layer 1 and 2, or for the inside layer and outside layer. So I'm just going to do 6 each. Now I'm just zigzagging and cutting my really pretty ribbon. Same thing, going to cut a little corner, and that way you're cutting it and making a dovetail at the same time. And then this gorgeous 1.5-inch ribbon, I'm going to be cutting 12 strips at 12 inches each. Same thing, I'm zigzagging until I get 12 pieces, and then I'm going to dovetail all the edges. All the ribbon is cut, 12, 6, and 6 strips each at 12 inches in length. Now it's time to make the ruffle. My deco mesh is a solid color, so the center line is not that clear. What I like to do is grab my cutting mat, and where I have my light square, that's my 10 inches, I just lay my deco mesh right there, and I'm going to go off the center. That's my little square. The first thing I do when I make my ruffles is fold a little bit on the edge, about an inch, put my thumbs in the center, and start gathering. By the time you come to the end, it's going to fold almost by itself, so you don't have to worry about it. So grab that and bring it together. Now we have our little ruffle, and we are going to start attaching to the outside. 2 twists. Next, I'm going to take these edges and I'm going to overlap them. And then same thing with the other side. We're just going to overlap a little bit. Let's make the second one. Fold at the edge. I'm on my 10-inch square, and off I go. Next pipe cleaner, 2 tight twists, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and overlap my edges, and I'm overlapping, I would say, at least 2 inches. All the deco mesh is on the pipe cleaners that are on the outside of the wreath. Now we're going to attach ribbon. Usually I attach all the deco mesh and then the ribbon, but in this case, this is going to be a little bit easier. Here is the reason why I use 2 different sizes of ribbon. It's just because it's so pretty when you just overlay it, and the pink one is going to stand out even more. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find my center, just pinch it, and then after I bring it together, I'm going to make a little V, just like this. And then I'm going to twist the pipe cleaner about an inch from the connection. Grabbing some wire cutters, just going to cut that off. Fold the tail in half and back. The top of it is going to get covered by more deco mesh. I poof it out just a little bit. Just look how pretty this outside row is looking. I'm going to go ahead and finish it off. Now we're going to start working on the inside layer, and we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to make ruffles and attach them to the 6 pipe cleaners on the inside. 2 twists, and same thing. I'm going to find the edges and overlap them. As we're filling in the inside row, we're covering all the edges of the ribbon, and we're going to have a beautiful balance of the ribbon and deco mesh, and then the ribbon bundles on top. At this point, all the deco mesh is on our wreath, and can you believe we only used 1 roll? If you're still worried how dark this wreath is, that is okay. We're bringing in some pink. The centerpiece is light. I think we're going to be all right. I'm going to take the pink, the gold goes on top, find my center, bring it together, and we're going to do the same kind of thing where we're going to make a little V. Now I'm just going to twist up, and I'm going to cut off the excess tails on our pipe cleaners. Same thing, I'm going to floof the ribbon out. The rest of the ribbon has been attached. And now for the center. This is supposed to be a piece of artwork, so it does have a little hanging hook on there. Put my pipe cleaner right through, 2 twists. And since I don't trust the hook because I don't know how well it's on there, I am still going to put some hot glue right on top of my pipe cleaner and underneath the little hook. And then put a little piece of felt on there as an extra security. Grabbing these other 2 pipe cleaners, and I'm going to attach them on the sides right here. Same thing, piece of felt, and I'm going to put it right over. Our pipe cleaners are on. The pipe cleaner on top, send all the way back to row 3. One is going to be on one side of the intersection, the other one's going to be on the other, and we're going to give it a few twists. Now we have one last thing to do, and that's to add the ranunculus, and I'm just going to take the little tops off. As always, I want to make sure that I hot glue right there in the back. And I'm attaching it to the center of my pretty little ribbons on the top row only. All the flowers are on, and these ranunculus are such a beautiful touch, and they kind of work along with the picture really nicely. Now that everything is on, I'm just going to go around and make sure that all our ribbon is nicely laid out, and it's time to hang our wreath. Basics for this wreath are pretty easy. You're going to need a bicycle wheel wreath ring. I get this one at the Dollar Tree. You need a roll of 21-inch deco mesh, and it needs to be 10 yards in length. Some kind of a green deco mesh. I'm using a 10-inch soft poly mesh, and then either some 6-inch zip ties or pipe cleaners. Since the deco mesh I'm using for my rows is a fairly light pink, I decided that I'm going to paint my bicycle wheel. I'm going to be using this Rust-Oleum in Ultra Matte White to spray paint my wheel. And then when that dries, about an hour in between, I'm going to be putting this Krylon acrylic coating on it. It's UV resistant. But the reason I use it is because it does keep the paint in place, and I want to prevent chipping on the actual wheel. My wheel is nice and dry. Now it's time to start on our rows. Basically for this rows, I'm going to be using the bubble method, and we're going to spiral from inside going outside. The first 5 bubbles, I'm going to make them at 5 inches. Then the next 7 I'm going to make at 7 inches. And then the rest are going to be 10 inches in length. And then 12 to 14 inches outer row. That means the last few petals that we're going to be making, we're going to just open that rows up and make them a little bigger. I'm going to start by gathering my tail about 2 to 3 inches from the edge. And I'm just zip tying it to one of the spikes. I'm not worried about the tail going towards the back of the wreath or anything like that. If anything, it's going to give us volume for that center of the rose. Let's make our first bubble at 5 inches. And I'm just going to start turning my wheel. As I do that, I'm making that center of the rose. So I'm going to twist it until I'm on the opposite side of the first spike that I used. Just like that. And cut that off. Let's get the next petal going. I'm going to bring it in. We're not going to go too far. And just zip tie it where you feel that it fits. Next 5. This is number 3. This is petal number 4. And I'm just going to bring the other one close so I can see how my rose is forming. Play it by ear. You see what looks good on your wreath. When you're making these petals, keep in mind what's going on the previous row. So here I have a zip tie. So because of that, I'm actually going to skip 2 spikes and put it on this one. That way it will cover that zip tie. And roses are layered. There's nothing wrong with layering and just moving those petals around. This is such an easy wreath. There you go. And we're going to just get that rose nice and tight right here. I'm done with my 5-inch bubbles. I'm going to move on to the 7-inch bubbles. Here we are. Here's my 7-inch. And as you're doing this, keep on pushing those petals towards the inside. You have plenty of Deco mesh left. And just keep on skipping 2 to 3, whatever looks good. You're the artist here. I like the fact that there's really no cutting in this wreath. And you can make this and it's going to look so schmancy, and you are just going to have a beautiful wreath that you can gift away or give away. And it's just so pretty. Look at this. Here we are so far. So we just have to pretty much count the first few, and then you just play by ear. If you feel like your wreath needs them to get a little bigger, then do that. Get your petals a little bigger. Here is my last 7-inch, and don't forget, it's all going to get pushed in, and it's going to form a beautiful rose. And now I'm ready to do 10-inch petals. And this is what's going to really open up that rose. And if you're not ready to do a 10-inch loop, you can make them 8, 9, whatever works. This is your creation, your beautiful rose. At the end of the day, we have a full 10 yards of Deco mesh. That is a lot of Deco mesh to go on a little wreath like this. So you keep on going and just keep on making those bubbles. I feel like my rose is nice and full, and here is my Deco mesh roll. I just kind of want to show you what I have left. Now I'm going to go up from 10 inches to 12 or 14 depending on where I'm working and what I need. So first I'm going to start with the 12-inch loops, and then gradually move on to 14-inch loops. Just keeping my eye on that roll of Deco mesh because I want to make sure that I have nice big loops on the outside of my rose. Now that my Deco mesh is really ending and I know I'm on my last row, I'm going to start attaching my bubbles to the edge instead of the spikes. This is what's left of my tail. One side is about 9 inches, the other one is really long. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use it up. Same thing, 2 to 3 inches in, I'm going to collect it. And then in the back, I'm going to zip tie it. And then this floofiness right here, I'm going to gather and make another tail. Going to put it towards the inside. Roses overlap all the time and it's a little different, but that's all right. I'm going to use up everything I have. And here, I'm just going to grab another zip tie and I'm going to zip tie that in place, and you have an extra little petal. At this point, we're going to do some covering of zip ties. So that's the only time that I'm going to try to open up petals to cover it. As you're making sure that everything's nice, make sure to keep those factory edges, the sides of the Deco mesh, hidden inside, and just keep on working to make sure that your rose is nicely filled in. Now to make the petals, I'm going to grab my green Deco mesh, or poly mesh in this case, but you can grab whatever green you have on hand. I'm going to cut my Deco mesh 3 pieces in 12-inch strips. Now you decide where you want your petals. I'm going to do one here, and one right here. Grabbing my 12-inch piece, I'm just going to gather it kitty corner to kitty corner, just like that. Fold it in half, tuck it in, grab my zip tie, and just zip tie it in place. And there you go, petal number 1. And once again, I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to do kitty corner to kitty corner, and just collect it. And then you just put it together. And I do want to make sure that it's nice and even, going right there, forming a triangle. I have to admit, I think this is the fastest wreath I have ever made using 21-inch Deco mesh, because you're just doing little bubbles and you're going along, or maybe I just had too much fun making it and it seems like that. But that is it. I have my beautiful rose. I have some green petals. Open them up, make them all pretty. To cover the back, I'm going to be using a placemat from the Dollar Tree, and I'm not afraid that it's a darker color than my rose. If anything, if it peeks through anywhere, it's going to make it look like a shadow of a rose. So when you have a rose, towards the inside, it's kind of darker. So if there's anything peeking through any of these little places where it can't peek through, it's just going to look nice. So I'm not worried about that. But then again, if you're doing red Deco mesh and you have a red cover, that would be really nice. I'm working with what I have, and I know that it's going to look beautiful. So I'm going to take 3 zip ties, and I'm going to zip tie my placemat in place. When you do that, don't forget to take these sharp edges and send them to the back. I'm basically just going to go in between the petals because we have 3 petals. To hang a wreath, I'm just grabbing some jute cord. I made a few knots, and I'm ready to go. And now it's time to hang my rose. Let's go over the supplies for this wreath, starting with this adorable little teddy that we're going to decorate the wreath with. The Deco mesh that I'm using is 21 inches in width, 10 yards in length, and it is a gorgeous rosy pink with some gold foiling throughout. So beautiful. You will also need some pipe cleaners, these beautiful foam roses, and if you can't find these, you can definitely use those vase fillers that are made out of foam, and they come in many different colors. A pink little grosgrain ribbon, some floral wire, and of course for a base I'm going to be using a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Now it's time to attach the pipe cleaners. You can attach them as you work, or you can attach them straight to the actual wreath form and then attach the Deco mesh. I'm going to attach the pipe cleaners, then attach the Deco mesh. The first thing you want to decide is how big you want your Deco mesh loops to be, so you know how many pipe cleaners you're going to need. I'm going to be doing 10-inch loops, and I'm going to have 6 loops in each section. If you're going for 8-inch loops, you're going to have a more compact kind of wreath, and you're going to do 7 pipe cleaners per section. I'm going to be doing 10-inch loops, which means I'm going to have 6 pipe cleaners per each section. I'm going to start with my first one on an intersection and 5 on the inside. You can attach your pipe cleaners on either row 2 or 3. I'm going to do it on both this time. I got my pipe cleaner, and I'm going to do 2 twists and fold my pipe cleaner on the inside or outside. This one, it doesn't matter, just stay consistent. I'm going to lean more towards row 2 because I'm going to put the teddy bear on the inside, and I want it to be held a little bit tighter, so I want my loops to be a little bit closer together. And now I'm going to add 5 more. My first section is done, and as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the inside, and my 6th is on the intersection. I'm going to repeat this going all the way around. Now it's time to attach our gorgeous deco mesh. The first thing you want to do is to make sure that it is rolling onto the table. That way when we make our bubbles, they're just going to be naturally formed because that is how the deco mesh was rolled up. I'm going 2 to 3 inches from the edge, and I'm going to start collecting. You want to go as straight as possible. Going to grab it, and I do want to make sure that it's fairly even. I have my tail ready to connect. I'm going to go on any pipe cleaner to get started, and I'm going to give it a tight few twists. Push the tail to the back between rows 1 and 2. Then I'm going to grab a 6-inch zip tie, and I'm going to attach the tail about 1 inch from the pipe cleaner connection to row 1. Cut off the excess, and then you have a little tidy tail. It's nice, it's not fraying around everywhere. I love doing this, but this is optional if you want to do that. Now it's time to start making our loops. Our loops are going to be 10 inches from pipe cleaner to the next pipe cleaner. So I'm going to hold it nice and taut. My 10-inch square is this light one right here. So I'm going to go 10 inches, nice and taut, and attach it to the next pipe cleaner. And the reason I say to go nice and taut is because you do want to make sure you're going to have enough deco mesh when it comes to going all the way around. And number 2, you want the wreath to be fairly even in height. And at this time, you can decide if you want to add anything to the pipe cleaners, or for example, if I had gold pipe cleaners, I could have just left them and have them be part of the wreath. I decided that I'm just going to twist them up about 1 inch from where I connected the pipe cleaner. Cut off the excess, fold once and twice over that little connection, and that's it. So I think I'm going to do it as I'm going along, do a few twists, and that way we don't have to worry about it at the end. Making our next loop and attaching it. The first section is done. I have intersection to intersection, and look how beautiful and filled in this is. Making a bubble wreath is a very repetitive process, and it's nice for beginners because all we're doing is making little bubbles and attaching them to the 36 pipe cleaners. That's it. And so now we're going to twist a little bit and cut the excess off. I'm going to continue doing this until the whole wreath is filled in. I am on my last loop. Now I have to mention that the first loop that I did save my pipe cleaner on that one. So let me measure off the 10 inches, and I'm going to connect it on the pipe cleaner that I started. Give it a few tight twists. And then I'm going to send the tail between rows 1 and 2 to the back. Here is the starting tail, and here is the ending tail. And I'm going to zip tie it to the other side. Once again, I'm going to just zip tie on row 1 from the inside, about 1 inch from the last connection. Cut off the excess. Now the back is nice and neat. Let's cut off the excess on the zip tie and face this little nub towards the inside. Here is the wreath so far. You can leave it like this and then decorate, or you can open up each one of the bubbles. I do like to open it up because I feel like it gives the wreath a little bit of a softer look. So what I do is I just grab a bubble, the whole thing, find the beginning that needs to go on the inside, or if you're using your left hand, you can work out this way. It really doesn't matter. And then as I'm holding it, I'm feeding the whole deco mesh through and opening it up. I'm going to do this to all of the bubbles. I open up half of my bubbles. As you can see, this side is open and Simba. open and smooth and fluffy, and this side is a little bit tighter. I have definitely done some wreaths leaving it like this, adding a bow, a sign, and it's just perfect. Now we need to get Simba out of the way so we can finish up the rest of the bubbles. This wreath is all opened up. It's beautiful and fluffy. I love how it turned out. And by the way, if you want to know all the supplies that I used in this wreath and where I got them, you can find that in the description box below this video. Next, I'm going to work on the teddy bear. Let's take the little tag off. Then I'm going to use a piece of jute cord. I'm going to use one of those ivory flowers. These roses are so beautiful. And by the way, they also come in pink and red. Next, I'm going to grab a grosgrain ribbon. This one is 5/8 of an inch. And I'm going to make a little bow. I'm not going to do anything complicated. I'm just going to do a simple bow just like this. And we're going to put it on the teddy bear. How adorable is this? To bring it together, I'm going to use that jute cord. And make sure that it's long enough because we're going to wrap the jute cord around the little bear's neck. To find my center, I'm just taking my little bow loops and pulling them taut. I'm doing this one-handed, tying in the center. And let's do one more for good measure. And we have a sweet little bow, cutting the tail. The grosgrain ribbon does tend to fray just a little bit. So what I like to do is cut on a slant. You don't really want to do dovetails on this type of ribbon. And then I'm going to grab a little lighter. Sometimes I'll use a little tea light. Just turn it on and I'm going to run it really quick by the flame. Just really quick. And what that's going to do is it's going to seal the edge and it's not going to fray. What you don't want to do is go too slow, and then what's going to happen is you're going to burn the little edge. So I just go real quick until I know that it's sealed. Sealing the edges like I just did is definitely optional, and please use caution. To the center of our sweet wreath, we are going to grab one of those flowers. Make sure this one is super pretty because it's going to be the center of our wreath. Some hot glue on the back and attach it to our little bow. Now we're going to take our sweet little bow, wrap it around our teddy bear's neck, and tie it. Next, I'm going to take a piece of floral wire. It needs to be at least 14 inches. Grab my teddy bear and I'm going to feed it through. Just like this. Now I'm ready to attach this to the wreath. Okay, you guys, we have some serious cuteness happening over here. Let's flip this over. And the reason I said we need at least 14 is because our wreath form is 14 inches in width. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach one side on row 1, and then the other side is going to get attached on the opposite side. It looks like I'm pulling the teddy a little bit too tight, so I'm going to let one of the sides loose. Okay, that's a little better. Now that I know the teddy bear is in the right place, I'm going to go ahead and lock in that floral wire. To easily find the center, I like to do it on these intersections. You can see here's one side and here's the other. It's just easy to make sure you're in the center. To cover the back of the wreath, I'm going to be using a placemat. If you cannot find it at the Dollar Tree, I have some options for you that you can find them on Amazon, because you do want to make sure it's cheap enough, but also it's durable enough, it's not see-through. And I'm also going to be using 3 zip ties. I never pay attention to actually wear a zip tie. I just grab a zip tie and I'm going to attach it in a triangle formation. Ideally for this, you want to use a clear zip tie. I know it's not going to show, but still. And I'm going to send this little nub to the back. Now I'm going to just visually draw the triangle, and I know the next one is going to go somewhere here, and I'm just zip tying it to the last outside row. Let's flip. Now I'm ready to take the rest of my roses and I'm going to hot glue them all over the deco mesh, just like this. Anywhere you feel like it needs a little rose, and you could use a pack to 2 packs depending on how full you want it to look. Now for my advanced friends, I recommend doing a little sign in the center. If you want to do ribbon bundles, you can definitely do those and just spread them out here and there. I would do maybe about 2 per section and cut them to about 12 inches. That way you can definitely see the ribbon. I think it would be beautiful. The other option that I like to do on full wreaths like this is do a bow maybe up here and a little sign over here. If you want some ideas for full beautiful wreath bows, I'm going to attach some videos in the description box so you can get yourself ideas of the type of bow you may want to do that's going to be nice and full. I think this turned out so super cute. I used just 1 pack of the roses and I think it's more than enough for this wreath. Let's go over the supplies for this wreath. I'm going to be using 2 rolls of deco mesh, 1 white, 1 red. They're both 10 inches in width and 10 yards in length. If you're going to use 1 color, you're going to need a roll and a half for this wreath. Here is the sweet little Valentine sign that I'm going to use. The strawberries are so darling. All the ribbon that I'm going to use is wired. I'm going to use this green 2.5 inch, this sweet little strawberry 1.5 inch, and a white one that is 1.5 inch that I get at my local Costco. The wreath base that I'm using is a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. You're going to need a pack of pipe cleaner, and because I'm going to attach my pipe cleaners to my sign the old-fashioned way, I'm going to use 2 scrap pieces of felt. The first thing I'm going to do is attach my pipe cleaners. I'm going to be using an 18 pipe cleaner method. It's super easy. We have 6 sections. In each section, we're going to do 3 pipe cleaners. The first pipe cleaner is going to go on row 1 and 2, and I'm going to twist it in the middle and fold it towards the inside. Then I'm going to put 2 pipe cleaners on the 2 outside rows, rows 3 and 4. Going to give it 2 twists. These guys I'm going to fold out. Same thing with this one. It's that simple, my friends, and I'm going to repeat this in all the sections of my wreath form. When you're done attaching all your pipe cleaner, this is what your wreath should look like. 6 on the inside and 12 on the outside. For a ruffle wreath, I cut my deco mesh into 30-inch strips. My cutting mat only goes to 24. So I grab a ruler, add 5.5 inches, a half inch here, that's going to be 6 inches, and put that right underneath. I have 6 inches, 24, that gives me 30. To make things easier on myself, I'm going to put in 1 roll of deco mesh in my little container. And now the second roll, I'm going to overlay them and cut them together. We're going to need 9 strips of deco mesh in each color to make it a total of 18. Cut it at 30 using my little roller cutter. Roll up the deco mesh, and I'm going to continue until I get 9 of these. Now it's time to make our ruffles and attach them to the wreath form. Since I'm using 2 colors, I'm going to go every other color on the inside and then every other color on the outside. That's why I roll them together. That way I grab 1 pair, and I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm going to do red, white, and then red, white, red, white. The first thing I'm going to do is have my deco mesh roll onto the table. About 1 inch in, I'm going to fold it in. Since our deco mesh piece is quite long and I don't have a center point, I like using my cutting mat as a guide. I'm going to go for the 10-inch little square because my deco mesh is 10 inches. And I'm going to focus on this center one. That is where I'm going to put my thumbs and start bringing my little roll together. The nice thing about having the Deco mesh roll onto the table is by the time you get to the back, this end is just going to fold on its own. Look at that, no worries. And I'm going to bring it in. There we have our first ruffle. If you feel like you kind of went crooked, like I kind of felt like I did, you can just pull gently, very gently on those little grooves to straighten out your ruffle. And I'm going to start attaching from the center just because I feel like that's easier. Since I know I'm not going to attach anything to my ruffles, I'm going to go ahead and twist the pipe cleaner up about an inch, cut the remaining tail, and then just fold it in and fold it back. Now it's time to do my white. Same thing, I'm going to unroll it, fold about an inch at the edge, thumbs on my square, and off I go. Just ruffling it up. This is so much fun. It's quick, it's easy, and you are going to have one impressively gorgeous wreath. Bring that part together. Now I'm going to go to the next one in the center and attach. Twist it up, fold it in half, and fold it back. I'm putting on my last piece in the inner row, and I love the contrast with the red and white. I'm done with the inner row. I'm going to start on the outer row. Doesn't matter which color you start with, just go ahead and start and go all the way around. Our Deco mesh is all on. This wreath is big and beautiful, fluffy. And now here's the game plan for the decor. I'm going to bring in the sign, put it in the corner. On the other side, in the kitty corner, we're going to do a big bow. And then on these sides right here, we're going to do 2 ribbon bundles. Starting with my beautiful green ribbon, I'm going to do 2 strips at 12 inches. I am going to do dovetails as I'm moving along. So we're folding in half and cutting a little triangle out. For the strawberry ribbon, we're going to do 12 inches once again, but we're going to do 4 strips. And of course, dovetails on this one. Now for my white 1.5 inch, I decided just to do 1 each because I want my strawberry ribbon to stand out. That's my little star. Let's make the bundles. I'm going to start with the green, 2 of the strawberry ones, crisscross them like that, and 1 white. I'm going to bring this all together, grab a pipe cleaner, and I'm going to twist in the back. And the reason that I'm not using one of the pipe cleaners from the wreath itself is because I want to be able to move this wherever I want it in the wreath, just like this. To make the bow, I'm going to be using the bow maker, 2 dowels right next to each other in the center. I'm going to go in the same order of color, green, strawberry, and then the white. This ribbon is one-sided, so as soon as I put it in, I'm going to twist it in the center and start making my loop. I'm going to make about a 5.5 inch loop, and then every time I cross the dowels, I'm going to twist the ribbon. That way the ribbon is always facing out. 5.5 inches on this side. I want this bow to be nice and full, so I am going to do 4 loops of the green. Now I'm going to put the tail on the other side. You really don't need to do this, but the reason I do it is when I put this bow on the wreath itself, all the tails are going to be evenly sorted out. Next, I'm going to do the strawberry one, and let's just put that on top. This ribbon is also one-sided, so we are going to twist every time we cross the dowels. Same thing at about 5.5 inches. Twist. Because my strawberry ribbon is kind of the guest of honor here, we are going to do 6 loops. And I'm just eyeing all the tails. Now my white ribbon, I know you can't tell, but one side is matte, one side is glossy. I'm going to be using the glossy side. I have my tail, and I am going to twist this one in the center also. I'm going to do 4 loops, and I'm going to go just a little bit shorter than the 5.5 inches just because this white ribbon is going to be in the center. And then the other tail is going to go on the other side. Now I'm going to grab a zip tie. This one is 8 inches in length. You don't have to use one that big. 6 inches would be just fine. And I'm going to bring the whole bow together. I'm going to move this little nub thing to the back, cut off the tail. Then I'm going to grab a pipe cleaner, wrap it around, and give it 2 twists. The reason I'm using a zip tie and a pipe cleaner is because this is a full bow and the zip tie is really going to keep the bow in place. The first thing I'm going to do is attach my big bow. And the one thing that I want you to remember when you're doing this is not to sink it in to the wreath like this. Keep it on top. It doesn't have to be too tight because then the bow is just not going to stand right. I'm attaching it on the intersection so it holds in place. The Deco mesh is going to do the work of holding the actual bow in place. We're going to sort it out later because we're still going to go back and forth. Just eyeing this right up here. And the other one is going to go right there. Let's attach each of the little bundles. I'm attaching my ribbon bundles to row 2 and 3. After I adjust it where I want the sign, I'm going to eye and then mark with a pen where I want my pipe cleaners to go. Now it's time to do our sign. I'm going to remove this jute cord on top, grab my 2 pipe cleaners, fold them in half, and make a little bit of a seat with maybe 1 or 2 fingers at the bottom so it's nice and flat, just like this. Let's attach this pipe cleaner, a little bit of hot glue, my pipe cleaner right on top, and then on each side, just like that, on top and bottom, and my little felt piece right on top. My sign is going to go right there. Let's flip. And I'm going to attach it. Once I like where my sign is, I know that everything I need is attached. I'm going to flip over and really lock in that sign to make sure it's going nowhere. Now we get to my favorite part, and that is to start opening up your bows and of course your little ribbon bundles. How adorable. Now that I'm doing that, I'm sure some of you noticed that I did not dovetail my bow. For shame, Nadia. So that is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to grab the tails of my bow and dovetail them. Now that I cut all the tails on my bow, and I really did not cut to any particular length, opening up all those beautiful loops, twisting them like this in place, putting my tails where I want those to go. Fluffing out your bow is so much fun. I always say the more you play with it, the prettier it will get. If you feel like your bow is a little sparse or it doesn't have enough ribbon, or you feel like it's just not big enough, look what you do. You make this top part a little bit flat, just like this. You make it flat versus pointy. And when you do that, you're adding volume. And it's just going to make this bow look so much fuller than it is. I mean, I do have a lot of ribbon in here, but still, this is a great trick if you feel like you just don't have enough ribbon on your bow. We have a little visitor, excuse me, Simba. And now I'm going to go ahead and open up my ribbon bundles. And as always, I'm just fluffing them out kind of to look like a flower. That's it. That is all I'm doing. This wreath came together kind of quick. Look at this bow, so pretty. And of course the sign is adorable. And we have a pretty Ruffle Valentine's wreath. Here are the supplies that we're going to need for this wreath. This wreath is going to be 100% Dollar Tree supplies, starting with the centerpiece that's 11 3/4 in diameter, so almost 12 inches. This is quite a large sign. Then I'm going to be using 3 rolls of Deco mesh. I'm going to be using 2 red and 1 white. All the Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree is 6 inches by 5 yards. If you are someone like me who doesn't buy Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree anymore, I just have to use mine up because I have a lot left over from one I used to buy. This is my next go-to, and it's the 5.5-inch Deco mesh that you can find pretty much anywhere in a craft store or of course online. This particular one is 5.5 inches and 18 feet, so this is definitely a great option. Then I'm going to use some burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. This one's 2 inches in diameter by 3 yards. Then you're going to need some sort of flowers, maybe little hearts, whatever you have on hand to put in the center of our ribbon bundles. For me, because this is so large, I'm only going to be doing the flowers on the outside row because this sign is going to take up a lot of that center. You're also going to need 2 zip ties and of course a pack of pipe cleaners. You're going to need 18 pipe cleaners to attach the Deco mesh and 2 to 4 for your centerpiece, depending on how big it is. Let's start by attaching our pipe cleaners. The way I like to think about it is we're going to do a section at a time. Each section is going to need 3 pipe cleaners. Starting on row 1 and 2, I'm going to put a pipe cleaner right in the center using both of those rows. I'm going to do 2 twists, and I'm going to bring this pipe cleaner towards the inside of the wreath form. That's going to help us find our pipe cleaner as we're moving along. Now I'm putting 2 more pipe cleaners on the outside rows 3 and 4. I'm sorry about the cat here. Very not cool, interrupting Leo. There you go, there's the second one. And these 2 pipe cleaners, I'm going to face out. Now I'm just going to go to all my sections and do the same thing. 1 on row 1 and 2, and 2 pipe cleaners to the sides of this one that I attached to rows 3 and 4. My wreath form is all ready. On rows 1 and 2, I have 6 pipe cleaners facing towards the inside, and attached to rows 3 and 4, I have 12 pipe cleaners, 2 per section, going all the way around and facing out. I usually start working from inside going out. If I started right here, I would do 9-inch loops going all the way around, and I'm going to complete the circle by attaching that last loop to where I started. Then I'm going to go flat to this pipe cleaner, to the next pipe cleaner, and then I'm going to continue making 9-inch loops. Some of you let me know that the Dollar Tree Deco mesh was not enough using 9 inches, so try maybe making 8-inch loops on the outside, because on the inside you need that space to be filled, but on the outside you can definitely do 8 inches and go all the way around to make sure that you have enough Deco mesh to last you. Oh, hello, look who joined me. I'm just opening up my Deco mesh, and if you are using the 5.5-inch Deco mesh, you might want to consider using 4 of them, but I do find that using 3 is just fine. I'm going to be putting my Deco mesh rolls in my IKEA little container, but as I said, whatever container you have on hand is just fine. All my Deco mesh is going to be rolling towards the table just like this. And I'm going to first put in my red, then I'm going to put in my white. And Leo is really supervising me today, huh, Leo? And then the red again. I just put in my measuring mat, and I did line up my edges, all 3 rolls. I'm going to start by bringing the edge together, 2 or 3 inches maximum. You don't need that much. And the first thing I'm going to do is connect it to one of our pipe cleaners, and I'm going to do a very tight twist here. Now I'm grabbing my zip tie, and I'm going to go on row 2, and I'm going to attach that tail about 1 inch from the connection It's first going to just stretch it out and make it nice and clean. And second of all, it's going to give you a permanent hold. Now I'm just going to cut off the tail. Since we have it already poofed up, I'm going to first wiggle it through because the edges tend to stick together. And that way I already have a few loops ready to go. And now I'm going to measure 8 inches that are right here and add one more square. There you go. And I'm going to connect it to the next pipe cleaner. And as you saw, I really make my deco mesh nice and tight because you only have 5 yards, and I kind of don't trust Dollar Tree deco mesh because I sometimes feel like it cuts short. There you go. Another 8 inches plus 1. There's the next one. And I'm going to continue doing this all around the inside row. Making my last loop on this inner row, going right there where I started. Here's my zip tie, and this is my first pipe cleaner that I used. And here I'm going to do a nice twist or two. You do want to make sure this is nice and secure. And now we're going to go to the next pipe cleaner, which is in the same section where we started, this one right here. And we're going to go absolutely flat, just like this. That way when we come around, we're going to have beautiful, even loops. As you're doing that second row, now you understand why these pipe cleaners facing out is such a big help. Because here I am just measuring my 9 inches or 8 for those who would like smaller loops on the outside. And I'm just picking up that next pipe cleaner. Here you go, next 9 inches. And I'm going to do this going all the way around. Measuring out my last 9 inches. Going to cut off a 2 to 3 inch tail. And there you go, that's what's left. As you can see, I'm attaching it right there where I started the outside row. And I'm going to face the tail towards the inside because I'm going to attach it to row 3. A quick 2 twists. Grabbing my zip tie, I'm going to attach it from the back because it's easier to see. About 1 inch from our last connection. Cut that off. At this point, it's up to you if you want to leave it like this and then start your ribbon bundles, or you want to open it up. I want to open it up because I kind of want the white to peek through here and there. I'm going to go to the innermost deco mesh and I'm going to push it down and then out. This is Dollar Tree deco mesh, so I want to be as gentle as I can with it. Then the white. For the outside row, I'm going to take my innermost layer of deco mesh, and that one I'm going to push out this way, then the white, and then the red. All the poofs are opened up, and before we move on, I want to show you the difference between a poof wreath and a bubble wreath because I had a lot of people asking me what the difference was. So poof wreath is when you have 18 pipe cleaners and you do that kind of spiral going around. That is a poof wreath. You keep on making poofs. Here's a sample of a bubble wreath that is done with the same kind of 3-layer technique with Dollar Tree deco mesh. It's opened up here, but as you can see, I have a bubble, then I have a bubble, then I have a bubble, and a bubble. That's where you go all the way around making little bubbles. So this is a bubble wreath. This is a poof wreath. I made this wreath a while ago. I will link it in the description box below if you want to take a look at it and have not seen it yet. Now let's make the ribbon bundles. I absolutely love it when I get a chance to use this burlap ribbon. It's one of the best ribbons that Dollar Tree has, and I always try to pick some up when I go to the Dollar Tree, and of course that they have it. I'm going to measure off my 10 inches, and then as usual, I'm going to zigzag because I am going to be making little dovetails at the end. And if you are going to use the same type of centerpiece that I'm using, you might want to do only 30 strips because we're using 2 per bundle on the outside row, and I'm just going to use 1 per bundle on the inside row. I got 10 strips from 1 roll, which means you might be able to get away with using just 3 rolls of this ribbon. And as you see, I'm just folding the ends in half and cutting little triangles, making sure I cut the edges right here so the ribbon separates. just like that. And of course, now I'm just going to flip and do the same thing on this side. Now let's make the ribbon bundles. On the outside row, I'm going to grab 2 of them, find that center, and I'm just going to squeeze it together and attach. Then I'm going to do 2 twists. And at this point, if you want to use the pipe cleaners, maybe curl them, you can definitely do that, or you just twist it around, fold it, and then fold it behind the ribbon. Or you can fold it and cut it about 1 inch away from the center, whatever you feel like doing. Let's do another one on the outside. Just quickly find that center by pinching it, bring it together, and attach. Leo, do you like it? I know it's going to be so pretty. 2 twists, and then I'm just going to twist the excess pipe cleaner, fold it in half, and then in half again, and then I'm just going to twist it behind the ribbon. I'm going to open these up later. On the inside row, I'm just going to grab 1 piece of ribbon, find that center. Leo, seriously, honey. He is just, he can't get enough. And I'm just going to twist it. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to push both tails out because that centerpiece is going to be right here. Now that all my ribbon is on, I'm just going to start opening up the outside one, and I'm just making kind of like a little flower. So while my hot glue gun is warming up, I'm going to go ahead and open up all my ribbon. All my ribbon bundles are open, and now it's time to grab our roses. And the way I'm going to attach the rose is I'm going to first secure this little part right here, the little stem, and then I'm going to put some hot glue on the outside. And when I attach it to my ribbon, I'm going to just put this little part that's sticking out next to the center and then put the rose in the center. That way it kind of sits inside our actual little bundle. Oh, how pretty is this? I'm going to do the same thing with this next one. First, seal in this part and now more hot glue around. And then with the part sticking out, I'm going to put it right there where the pipe cleaner is to the side and put the rose in the center. And there you go. All the roses are on and they are looking so pretty. Now it's time to attach the centerpiece. I'm going to get rid of this and I'm going to attach in 3 places. So grabbing 3 pipe cleaners, I'm going to fold them in half, and here I'm going to make a little flat area, some hot glue, then we're going to put our pipe cleaner on, and then I'm going to put some hot glue on top, and at the bottom of our pipe cleaner, grabbing ribbon, fabric, whatever you have on hand. I like using felt. I'm going to put the piece of felt right over, and this is what's going to seal this pipe cleaner in really nicely. And then 2 more on the sides right here. Now I'm bringing my wreath in. I'm just going to place it straight in the center. And since I have 3 pipe cleaners, I can definitely fit them on the intersections, and that's actually why I did that. The first pipe cleaner I'm going to insert between row 1 and 2. The second one I'm going to insert between rows 3 and 4 on the opposite side of this intersection. That way you have a nice secure hold. I just made a few twists just in case I need to tighten that up a little bit more. Now I'm just going to move things around so I can kind of set it towards the inside a little bit. I think it looks perfect the way it is. So in the back, I'm just going to go back and tighten these up. Now I'm just going to fix any ribbon that's out of place, and we're all done with this wreath. Let's go over the supplies we're going to need for the swag. First, you're going to need a 5-gallon stir stick. I buy them in a pack of 3 from my local hardware store. If you're not able to drill a hole to hang this swag, The next thing you will need is some floral wire. This is what I'm going to use to make a hanging hook. Pipe cleaners. Then we're going to need some deco mesh. I'm going to start out with some black deco mesh and we're going to brighten it up with some pink and white. Next, I have some decor. How pretty are these? I got these picks at the Dollar Tree this year and I just think they are so glam and so beautiful. This is the ribbon that kind of gave me my color palette. It's a pink and white buffalo check with some black and white buffalo check on the edging. I got this 50-yard spool of ribbon from Craft Outlet. And then for the center of the swag, I'm going to use this lovely love sign. I got this at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to get started by making the hanging loop. And so I'm going to make a big piece. So maybe twice the size of our stir stick. Let's cut that off. And you want to attach your wire at the narrowest part of the stir stick. The first thing I did was I folded my wire into 3 because I want to get about 1/3. This does not need to be complicated, but you do want to get about 1/3 of the wire. And at the narrowest part, I'm going to do a twist. Then I'm going around in one direction just about 3 times with one of the wires. Then I'm going to take the other one and go in the other direction a few times. At this point, you have a short piece of wire and a very long piece of wire. Twist them together. Then you just have one long wire. I'm going to take that one long wire, fold it in half. This little ending is going to go right here. Just make a little loop here. And now I'm going to twist everything. And I'm just twisting it just like that. Just twisting all of it together. Now that we twisted, we have one long wire. I'm just going to fold it over to the center and just twist like that. I'm just twisting it right here, and this is what's making my loop. Whatever remained, I'm twisting it around and folding it in. I do this because I do not like working with power tools. If you have an opportunity or you have somebody who can drill a hole for you here, just drill a hole and you can put a little bit of a ribbon or even a floral wire and hang it that way. Now I'm ready to attach my 8 pipe cleaners. I'm going to start in the center, and if you take the center of a 5-gallon stir stick, it's going to be 10.5 inches. I'm going to start by grabbing a pipe cleaner and I'm going to put it to the side at 10.5 inches, and I'm going to twist just 2 times on one side. I'm going to go in the same spot, grab my pipe cleaner, and then go to the opposite side and do 2 twists. So you're going to have 2 pipe cleaners in the center. Then I'm going to take 2 more pipe cleaners and I'm going to go about 2.5 inches from the edge. That's going to take us right below our hanging loop. And I'm going to do the same thing. Take a pipe cleaner and twist it on one side, and take a second pipe cleaner and twist it on the other side. The next pipe cleaner is going to go at the 2.5 inch mark, and a second one that's going to go on the opposite side. Take our pipe cleaners and just put them in the middle of our doubles. So one here and the second one. And now we have 8 pipe cleaners. We have 2, then 1, 2, 1, and then 2. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just hot glue my pipe cleaners in place. The bottom one, I'm going to just grab a little scrap of felt and I'm going to attach a felt piece right on top because I want to make sure that this one goes nowhere. I do this because this is my bottom pair of pipe cleaners, and is there a chance for them to slide off? Yes. So this is my way of securing that bottom set of pipe cleaners and keeping everything in place. These guys I'm not that worried about. Now it's time to make the cruffles. I'm going to be using my little basket. I get this one from IKEA, and you can use, as I always say, even a shoebox. Anything that you can just throw it in and you can just roll it out. For the cruffle for this, I recommend anywhere from 20 to 24 inches. I am just not sure how much I have left, and I need 8 of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting mine at 22 inches. Now I'm grabbing my pink ribbon, and you want to cut these anywhere from 10 to 12 inches. You will need 8 pieces at 10 to 12 inches of this pink deco mesh. Now I'm going to be cutting my white ribbon, and this one I'm going to be cutting at 10 inches. For my white deco mesh, I'm going to be cutting 16 of them because we are going to use 2 per bundle. Now it's time to bring everything together. I have my deco mesh all cut up. I have the pink one underneath the black, and I'm going to start by attaching the black. To help me make my ruffle, I'm going to be using a little clip or a clamp. You can use whatever you have on hand. I'm going to first start and roll maybe 2 to 3 curls on the end, and then I'm going to clamp it. And then I'm going to go on the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing, about 2 to 3 rolls. Then I'm just going to put my thumbs right in the center, and I'm going to walk the deco mesh in until everything is together. I'm going to be attaching these with the curls up and a twist. Next one, going to make a few curls, clip it in the center, go to the other side, a few curls on this side. This one's really curling up, and if you have something like that going on, just put a pair of scissors or something down there. I got this side rolled. Now it's time to bring it together. Curls facing up, I'm attaching it to my stir stick or my swag at this point. 2 tight twists, and our first 2 cruffles are on. Now I'm just going to go down the stir stick and do the same thing and attach a cruffle to each pipe cleaner. The cruffles that I attach to the 2 single pipe cleaners, I like to lay them down parallel to our actual stir stick because the side ones are going to naturally cover the sides. You want something to cover that center, and that is why we have those center ones. We want to make sure our center is covered. My base is done. Now it's time to pretty this up a little bit more. I'm going to get the white and the pink. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to curl one of my white ones, and I'm going to use a big clip just to hold it together. Grabbing a second white one, I'm going to crisscross that just like that and clip it together. I'm going to curl a pink one, put that straight in the center on top, and then attach it to my pipe cleaners. So it's not as bulky. What you can do is untwist, because by now there's already memory in your other deco mesh, and I'm just going to lay it over and then retwist it. That way the curls are going to sit a little bit deeper and closer to our original bundles. How pretty is this already? I'm going to continue doing this all the way down. Look how gorgeous the swag is so far. I'm going to put it to the side for a second while I bring in my ribbon. My ribbon is double-sided, which is absolutely beautiful. And the method I'm going to use is going to use a lot of ribbon, but if you want to use a method that would use less ribbon, then cut your ribbon into 10-inch strips, make dovetails, and then attach 2 of these ribbon bundles to each of the pipe cleaners. What I'm going to do is something different and might be new to a lot of you. I'm going to measure off 32 inches. I have 10 inches, 20, 30, and then just 2. Fold this, and I'm going to cut 8 strips like this. No dovetails. And now I'm just cutting my ribbon. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 inch, and that's going to be my little tail. Then I'm going to measure off 10 inches and make my first loop. Then I'm measuring the next 10 inches and bringing it together just like a bow. Then you should have 11 inches left. So we're going to take the little bit of tail that we have left over and bring it over. So we have 3 loops like this. And now you just attach it to your pipe cleaner. I'm going to do just 2 twists, and I'm going to twist the remaining pipe cleaner, and I'm just folding it back. Now I'm just poofing my ribbon out, and this is what you have. How adorable is that? Now let's take a minute and just look at this gorgeousness. I think this turned out so pretty. Next, I'm going to grab my little picks, and there are 2 different ones. There are these that have the little tails on them and the little heart that has a little hole inside. And then there are these that are just full little hearts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open them up, starting with the longer ones, kind of just sporadically opening them up. When I'm done, I'm going to put it between the double and the center at the top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath and behind this center one along our stir stick, and I'm clipping it to the black deco mesh behind in the back, kind of like that. And then I'm going to grab the other one, going to open it up just a little bit, and I'm going to put this one in the back, and I want this to stick out from the top. Okay, grabbing a floral wire, I'm going to tie this one in place. If I attached anything with floral wire, I'm just going to hot glue it in the back just to make sure that it's nice and secure. Grabbing another set of the heart picks, I'm going to attach them to the bottom of the swag just like I attached them to the top. I'm grabbing my love sign, and then I'm just grabbing a letter opener, and I'm going to go down and try to remove the love sign from the actual board. 2 more pipe cleaners, then grabbing some more of my scrap felt. I'm going to fold them in half, and in the center I make a little flat surface so that I can attach them. Then a little bit of hot glue. Now I'm just going to add some more hot glue on top and bottom of our pipe cleaner, and then put my little felt piece over it. And I'm going to do the same thing about there. There you go, and we have our little sign ready. At this point, if you're using this as a table centerpiece, maybe put a little bit more of the little hearts in the center, or a candle, or a little vase that would stand right here, and maybe some white flowers. That would look really pretty. In my case, I'm using this as a swag because I'm going to hang it up, and I'm going to put the love sign right in the middle. After sending my pipe cleaners back, I'm going to attach the sign. If you are gifting this or selling this, definitely cover the back and just use a piece of felt and hot glue it to the back all the way up to the little hook, and then another piece of felt right here. Since I was flipping my poor swag back and forth, putting everything on, now I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that all my little ribbon pieces are on nicely and everything is where I would like it to be. And we are done with this beautiful Valentine swag or centerpiece. Starting off with 2 rolls of Deco mesh that are 10 inches in width and at least 6 yards in length. I usually like to get the 10-yard rolls. I'm going to be using some 6-inch tulle. This is from the Dollar Tree and it's 5 yards in length. Next, I'm going to be using some beautiful ribbon that my friend Karen gifted me. It is a wired ribbon, 2.5 inches in width, and it is from Costco by Kirkland's Signature. Really, really pretty, and it goes along really perfectly with this gnome from the Dollar Tree. Look at the little hearts. Doesn't it match perfectly? So this is what I'm going to use as my centerpiece, is this sweet gnome, or you can use whatever Valentine's decor you like if you don't like gnomes. Next, you're going to need at least 18 pipe cleaners. If you're attaching a centerpiece, you're going to need a few more, and then 2 zip ties. And finally, you're going to need a wreath form. I'm using a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to get started by attaching my 18 pipe cleaners to my wreath form. A lot of wreath makers do a variation of how they like their pipe cleaners. I like to keep it simple. We're going to break this down into section by section. So in each section, we're going to have 3 pipe cleaners. So don't think of that overall kind of busy picture. We're just working this area right here. So I'm going to take rows 1 and 2, I count from inside out, and I'm going to put a pipe cleaner just on those rows. I'm going to do 2 twists, and then I'm going to fold the tails towards the inside of the wreath. This is what's going to help us later on when we're attaching the Deco mesh. Then we have 2 more for this section. One is going to go a little bit to the left, and the other one's going to go a little bit to the right of this center one. Twist 1, and we're going to fold it out towards the outside. And the second one. And this one's going to face outside also. And that's it. I'm going to repeat the same process going all the way around to all 6 sections. This is what your wreath is supposed to look like when it's done. As I said, look at it as section by section. Here is the deco mesh. As you can see, just an average regular type of deco mesh. So that goes underneath, and I'm sure you're wondering, how is the white going to show with red on top? I wanted to show you a little bit of closer look of this deco mesh. This deco mesh is called a wide weave metallic mesh because, as you can see, it's not as fine as this one. It has a lot of spaces in between those lines, and that is what's going to make the white show up from the background. If you don't have this type of mesh, then definitely put the white over the red, and then the red will show, and it's going to be a nice mix. I'm going to drop this second roll into my little basket, bring it together so you can kind of see the poof. This is the poof we're going for. We have white in the background with some red on top. This is going to be really pretty. Now let's talk about how we're going to attach our deco mesh to our wreath form. I sometimes call this the spiral method because you're kind of going in a spiral. You're making a circle, then you're making your way out, and then you're going to go on the outside. I always work from inside going out. And of course, you can go clockwise, counterclockwise. It doesn't matter. The method is going to be the same. So what I'm going to do is, for example, is if I start on this pipe cleaner, I'm going to make 10-inch loops. We're going to go all the way around on this inside row 1 and 2. And I'm going to make 10-inch loops going all the way around until I come back to this one. We're going to overlay it. So we're going to have a full circle. Then I'm going to have my deco mesh go flat, and we're going to move on to this next section. From here, I'm going to make 10-inch loops going all the way around in the back until I have completed my circle. First thing I'm going to do is overlay my white ones underneath, red one on top, and both of my deco mesh rolls are unrolling towards the table, not away from the table, towards the table. So I'm already making my poof. About 2-3 inches in, I'm going to gather, and I'm going to attach it to one of the inner pipe cleaners, and that is my starting and ending point for that inner row. I'm going to do 2 twists, and then the tail right here, instead of going wild, we are going to keep it under control. I'm bringing my zip tie out. We're going to secure it in place. I always say I sleep better at night knowing that deco mesh is going nowhere. I'm going to grab my wire cutters, cut that tail off. Going forward, every time I make a poof, I'm going to take my pipe cleaners and just point them up. We need to be able to find them as we're finishing the wreath. I'm going to be making my 10-inch loops. So what I do is this part where I actually start, I'm going to put it right here at my 10-inch mark, and that's the light square right here. I'm going to keep it tight. There is where I'm ending with my 10 inches and attach it to the next pipe cleaner. Now I'm going to do this going all the way around on the inner row, making my last loop. And I've been swinging this wreath around. I cannot believe he's just laying there. Cannot be bothered. My last loop is done, and now I'm going to just grab my deco mesh, and I'm going to go flat from here to this next one in the outer row. And now we are just going to be doing the same thing on the outer row. As you can see, I'm just keeping it tight. This pipe cleaner right here, this is where the last poof is going to get attached. I'm measuring my last loop. Let's cut off the excess, give it about 3 inches. And I'm going to attach it towards the inside. There is that pipe cleaner. Here is where we started the outside row. 2 twists. I'm going to flip upside down so it's better for you to see. I'm going to take that tail and I'm going to zip tie it to row 3 from the inside. And here you can see the beginning of my deco mesh rolls and the ending, and they're both secured. If you see that this wreath is a little bit on the sparse side, don't worry about it. We still have the ribbon coming up and the beautiful decor in the center. Before we get to the ribbon, I'm going to use the tool, and I'm going to do something different with it. After I unroll my tool, I'm going to cut it into 11-inch strips. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm just using my rotary cutter for that. Altogether, you're only going to need 9 strips because we want 18 total. And since we're cutting them in half, That's what's going to give us 18 of these little strips. And just like our tool, I'm going to be cutting my ribbon into 11-inch strips. Now I'm just zigzagging the ribbon. We're going to need 36 strips of this ribbon all together. I have 36 strips, and what I'm going to do is, while it's folded in a zigzag, I'm going to take both ends, fold in half, and cut a triangle, making sure I cut those corners, and I have my dovetail. I love doing this because it makes me feel so productive. I feel like I'm doing two things at once. I'm cutting my ribbon and making my dovetails at the same time. Now that all my ribbon is cut up, I'm going to start making my ribbon bundles. And these bundles are going to go in each of the pipe cleaners. 2 ribbon strips with the hearts and 1 of these tool pieces. Find the center. I usually just fold in half so we kind of know where the center is. Squeeze together just like this and start attaching to all the pipe cleaners. After I attached, I'm going to just twist my pipe cleaner up about 1 inch from the actual connection. Using my wire cutters, I'm going to cut off the ending and just fold in half and back. I'm going to go ahead and attach all of my little ribbon bundles, and keep in mind that when working with tulle, you have to be careful because the edges of the deco mesh can get caught on it. It really shouldn't happen in this case because all our deco mesh edges should be touching the table, and my tool is on top of my ribbon, so I'm just careful. After I attach, I raise my ribbon to make sure that it doesn't touch those edges, and it should be fine. As I'm opening up my bundles, and it's just so pretty. I don't think that the tool is showing up on camera as much as it does in person, and it just gives such a beautiful softness to the actual wreath. I love it. Cutting the ribbon to 11 inches is perfect for this type of wreath. It's doing its job. It's creating these beautiful ribbon bundles, plus you can see the beauty of the deco mesh. What's the point of getting beautiful deco mesh if we're just going to hide it all? So off I go, and I'm just going to continue doing this all the way around. If you can't find this particular ribbon, it's not a big deal. You can use what you have as long as you match your deco mesh to your ribbon. And now we're going to put our sweet little gnome in the center. I decided to connect it in 4 areas on top, bottom, and sides. Grabbing 4 pipe cleaners, and I'm making a little flat area in the middle. Now I'm going to take some felt pieces, and this is just scrap little pieces that I have left over. Some hot glue, then my pipe cleaner, then more hot glue at the top and the bottom, my felt piece, and now you have a nice secure connection. Now that my gnome is ready to get attached, bring in the wreath again, and I just like to usually hold everything down so I can put it on the wreath. Now you want to figure out where you want the gnome. Just going to keep it tight, flip it. I'm going to first take care of that top. I have my pipe cleaners, and I'm going to go on an intersection and just do kitty corner to kitty corner, meaning one pipe cleaner is on one side, the other one is on this side. That way you have a nice secure connection. Let's twist it in place. Then of course I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom, looking around, making sure that I like the way the gnome is situated. And I'm going to attach the sides. Now that my gnome is on, I'm going to flip back, and I'm going to cover to just attach it at 3 spots using my zip ties. And all I'm doing is just zip tying and cutting that tail off. 2 more spots. And of course, don't forget to send this little nub to the back so nothing gets scratched. Now I'm just going to peek underneath to see where my top is, and it's right here on this intersection. So I'm going to grab some jute cord, making a few knots, cutting that off, and sending the knot to the back, and we have a little hanging loop. Now I'm going to go around one more time and make sure that my ribbon is laying nicely and all those little flowers are open. Look how beautiful this wreath came out. let's go over the supplies for this wreath. I'm going to start with 2 rolls of this red deco mesh. It's 10 inches in width by 10 yards. Then I'm going to use some beautiful ribbon. All the ribbon has wired edges. This hard one is 2.5 inches, this one 2.5 inches, and this one's 1.5 inches. Here are the 2 picks that I'm going to use. I chose these because of the different colors. They go really nicely with the little bears on the sign. You are very sweet. How adorable is this sign that we're going to use? Zip ties. You will also need some pipe cleaners for this wreath. The evergreen wreath form we're going to use is a 24-inch wreath form. What that means is you're going to grab your petals, lay them flat, and you have 24 from side to side. The actual base itself is about 14.5 inches, but when they measure it stretched out. I have my roller cutter and I'm getting ready to start cutting my deco mesh. For ruffle wreaths, I like cutting at 30 inches. You can cut anywhere from 28 to 34. So if you want a fuller wreath, you can go a little longer. That's just fine. My cutting mat only goes to 24. So what I do is I grab a ruler and I go to 5.5 inches because there is a 1/2 inch on the edge. And I just slide it right underneath. So I go all the way to the beginning of my ruler, even a little bit over if you want to make it longer. Then grab your little roller cutter and cut at 30 inches. Then I just roll it naturally because I want to make sure it does not fray. I'm going to put this in a laundry basket that I have to the side of me, and I'm going to cut 18 of these. My deco mesh is all cut up, and now I'm ready to attach it to this wreath form. First thing I'm going to do is just get all that greenery to the side so we can see a clear wreath. I'm going to do 6 ruffles on the inside and 12 on that outside row. The second thing we're going to look at is the spaces in between the greenery. To have 6 pieces of deco mesh, we are going to eye this. So if I do 1, we're going to do 2 here, 3, 4, and 5, 6. To get started, I'm going to take 2 of the pieces and I'm going to twist them. That's going to give me a solid point to start. Then I'm going to go to the exact opposite side, grab 2 pieces on this side and twist. Since we laid everything out, we can clearly see where our first 2 pieces are. Now I'm going to find 2 spots right here and let's do a twist, fold it down, and then center twist it and lay it down. Look how clearly we can see where we're going. And do the same thing on this side. Our inside row is done. Now it's time to move to the outside row. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to raise this inner row. I'm going to raise it but not turn it in. Now that I can see the outside row, we are doing 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the edge of each of my little marks for the inside row and go about 1 inch on each side, and that's where I'm going to have my attachment. So I'm going to take 2 of them, twist them, lay them down, and then pick up the rest of the greenery so it stays together. We're going to sort it out later. Then I'm going to go on the other side and about 1 inch towards the inside here. Going to find the 2 and twist them. And as I said, we are picking the ones that don't belong there. Now we have 2 that you can definitely see. Flip some of these up. I'm going to go 1 inch, twist it, and then put it down. Okay, my friends, I have my 12 ready on the outside, 6 on the inside. But because of all of this going on here, what I decided to do is I'm going to work outside in because these are so much easier to see than these. So I'm going to get these attached and then bring that greenery in between, and then we'll be able to see this just fine. To make my ruffle, I'm going to make sure that my deco mesh is being curled onto the table, and I'm going to use my cutting mat as my guide because I don't have any stripes on this Deco mesh. To get started, I'm going to take the edge, fold it in about 1 inch, center it on my cutting mat, go to the little square, and off I go collecting all the 30 inches of this beautiful red Deco mesh. When we get to the end, this side should really just pop in place, and we're going to fold it in 1 inch. The reason is it's just natural for it to curl in because that's how it was on the roll. I got my ruffle all ready, and then I'm going to go ahead, grab my first set and do 2 twists. Let's move on to the next one. Fold 1 inch and off I go. I know at this point you're looking at this wreath and saying, Nadia, it looks a little Christmassy. That is all right. We are going to bring those fun colors in. We are going to bring the pink in the bow. We're going to make this look like a beautiful Valentine's wreath. I'm going to continue attaching my ruffles to the outside row, and then I will be right back. Right, my outside row is all done. Look at that, nice and even. Now we need to focus on the inside and start attaching the ruffles. Give it a twist or 2, whatever makes you feel comfortable, and go ahead and attach the rest of these ruffles. All my Deco mesh is on, and the game plan is we are going to have a sign at the bottom, a big old bow on top, and to bring in more of that beautiful ribbon, I decided to do just 6 bundles. We're going to do 1 on top, bottom, and 2 on the sides. I have my ribbon, and I decided to make a funky bow. Now, I know you guys are going to love this because this bow is so super easy. Anyone can do this. I'm going to cut 2 strips of this first ribbon at 28 inches. To make my life easier, I'm just going to go to 14, fold it in half. There's my 28 inches, and then I'm going to fold that in half. There's my 28 inches. Make little dovetails on both sides. Fold both of my pieces in half. Try not to make a crease on the edge. Next, I'm going to get this absolutely stunning glittery hearts ribbon. Oh, it's so beautiful. Same thing, I'm going to go to 14, fold it in half so I can get my 28 inches and get 2 strips out of this one. We're going to fold both ends and make dovetails. Fold in half and try not to crease the edge. The last ribbon we're going to add is this 1.5 inch wired pink ribbon, and I'm going to put this one in between the 2.5 inch ones. This is going to be just an elegant ribbon, and I really want that pop of pink. When it comes to this pink ribbon, I'm going to cut 4 strips at 28 inches. When I get my 4 strips, same thing, fold the edges and make dovetails. The next step is to put all my ribbon onto my bow maker. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to grab it and decide how big I want my loop to be. I want my loop to be 6 inches. That way the tail is going to stick out a little bit. So here we go. We have it at 6 inches, and I'm going to lay it down nice and flat. Then I'm going to grab this pink one, which is going to go in between every layer. And I'm going to flip it upside down. And then on this side, I'm also going to go to 6 inches. And then I'm going to go to my white one, and the loop is going to go on the opposite side. So the loops will alternate as you go up. Very simple. Same thing, I'm going to go to 6 inches, then the pink again. And that's going to go on the other side. Now we're going to get to the red again, and this time we're going to flip, and the loop is going to be on the opposite side. And now the pink is going to start looping on this side. Same thing with the white. And then our last pink, same thing, it's going to go on this side. Now this is going to be fairly tall. That is why I highly recommend using a zip tie instead of a floral wire, because zip tie can get it squished in nicer and stronger, and it will make the petals pop up even more. So I do love using my zip tie. This is the really careful part. You can either take it all off and then put the zip tie on, or you can just really carefully just kind of hold it with the zip tie and then just really zip tie super hard because you do want that to be nice and strong. And look at that. Look at my little center. The zip tie did its work. Cutting off the tail. And now is when I come in with my floral wire, go right over that zip tie, do a few twists in the back, and this bow is ready to go on my wreath. Since we are dealing with quite a large wreath form, I decided to do 12-inch strips, and we're going to need 6 of these. As always, I'm going to zigzag up until I get 6, and then do dovetails on the ends. Grabbing my pink ribbon, same thing. I'm going to cut 12-inch strips, and I'm going to need 6 of these. To make my little ribbon bundles, I'm going to grab 3 pipe cleaners, fold them in half, and cut them in half. This is going to give me 6-inch little pieces, and this is going to be more than enough for what we need. I'm just going to overlay the pink over the white. And since I'm working on my cutting board, I can definitely see where the center is. Gather the center, make a little ruffle, bring it together with the pipe cleaner. Fold that in half, and we have our little ribbon bundle. Next, I'm going to attach the ribbon bundles, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to eye in between the ruffles right here because we have 6 of these and 6 on the inside, and I'm going to work my way out to the outside row, and that is where I'm going to attach. I'm going to go to the next 2 ruffles, and right there in the center make my way out and attach my ribbon bundle on the outside row. As I'm putting these in, I'm grabbing some of the evergreen and kind of making a little seat for my ribbon to be on because I want it to be a little bit hiked up. My ribbon bundles are on and they're nicely and evenly spread. Now I'm going to bring in that bow and I'm going to attach it to the inner row. Once I have it attached, once again, if there are any greenery that's just floating around doing nothing useful, put it down so we have something to lay that beautiful bow on. Now let's get this beautiful sign ready for our wreath. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this jute cord. Then I'm going to grab 3 pieces of leftover felt and 3 pipe cleaners. I decided to do 3 connections, one right here, and one at the bottom. I'm going to use my true and tried method, which is just putting some hot glue on my little base. Then I'm going to fold my pipe cleaner and make a little flat surface. I call it a little seat. Attach it. Hot glue on top and at the bottom. Grabbing my felt piece, I'm going to put that right over. And I promise you it's going to hold like you can't imagine. By the way, I am using a hot glue gun. It just has black hot glue, and of course now that I'm using something dangerous, Simba decides to stop over. I'm going to put that right there. Simba, I'm watching you like a hawk. The sign is ready to go on, and now I'm just going to place it where I need it to go. Let's flip and start attaching. The 2 top pipe cleaners I'm attaching to row 1, and the pipe cleaner that I put in the center I'm going to attach to the outside row. Now that the sign is taken care of, I'm going to go to the top of the wreath where my bow is and grab that piece of jute cord that we removed from the sign and make a little hanging loop. I'm just making a little knot and we have our hanging loop. Going to start opening everything up. The ribbons that are facing down, we are going to go as close to the center of our bow as possible and give them a little twist and then just stretch them out. Now that my tails are spread out, start bringing all those loops to the center, wiggling them in, twisting them in the center so they stay up and not lay down. The more you play with it, the prettier it will look. My bow is nice and open and I'm going to continue playing with it until I feel like it's beautiful. But in the meantime, let's do our ribbon bundles. And as always, I like to kind of swoop them up, make them look like little flower petals. Wreath is almost all done. Now I have to bring in these super fun picks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach them behind my bow. Measure approximately where I want them because I am going to spread them out. And right there, I'm going to zip tie them. The reason I'm zip tying, not just putting in a pipe cleaner, is because these little picks are really strong. The actual wires right here, they are super strong. At this point, I'm going to take the tails and cut those off a little shorter. Now that I have these shortened, I'm going to go ahead and bend all of these down because we do want them to come down. When I like the way it looks, that's when I'm bringing in my pipe cleaner and attach it behind my bow. There's my bow and there are my picks. I'm going to go ahead and attach those in place. And now I'm just going to start opening these up. One last fix of my bow. Make sure those ribbons are laying out nicely. And we are done with this super cute and fun Valentine's ruffle wreath. Let's go over the supplies for this wreath, starting with this beautiful 21-inch Deco mesh that is 10 yards in length, a pack of pipe cleaners. You are going to need 16 for the wreath base. For ribbon, I'm going to be using this gorgeous 2.5-inch wired ribbon that was originally purchased in Kirkland, but this was actually thrifted, so might have been a few years ago, but you can obviously use any Valentine's ribbon you have on hand. I'm also going to be using a few of these mesh ribbon pieces. These are absolutely fun to work with. For the center of the wreath, I'm going to be using this Happy Valentine's Day sign. It's metal, it's 12 inches in diameter, and it does have some iridescence to it, a little sparkle, and these little hearts would match so perfectly with this ribbon. For a wreath base, I'm using this metal square wreath form, and it measures 14 inches from side to side. Let's attach our pipe cleaners, and we're going to do that in 3 easy steps. Step 1 is to put a pipe cleaner in the center of each of the center little sections. So I'm going to go in each of the sections, grab my pipe cleaner. I am going to attach it on row 1 and 2 and just twist it. I'm going to try to twist it as close to the center as possible. Now I'm going to go to the next one and right in the center and twisting it towards the center. Step 1 is done. Step 2 is going to be to attach a pipe cleaner to each one of the inside corners. And we're just going to give it a twist or two. And then later on, I am going to hot glue this in place because there's just no way to solidify that little corner and to have it stay in place otherwise. Put it on, 2 twists, and I'm going to move it to the corner. Step 2 is complete, and step 3 is super easy. What we're going to do is go on each one of the intersections on row 2 and connect a pipe cleaner there. So right on the intersection, and this is going to be our outer row. So I'm going to do 2 twists, and I'm going to twist the pipe cleaner out. I'm going to go to those corner ones and just put some hot glue right on the corner on both sides so it's nicely attached. Just so you know, I have a silicone mat, so it's not going to attach to it. All the pipe cleaners are on, and I'm sorry that the pipe cleaners are white and the background is white, but let's run through the steps one more time. The first step was to attach pipe cleaners on row 1 and 2 in each of the middle sections. Step 2 was to attach in each of the inside corners. And step 3 was to attach on each intersection on row 2. Altogether, you have 8 on the inside and 8 on the outside. Now it's time to attach the deco mesh. I'm going to start by attaching the deco mesh on the inside row, and I'm going to make 10-inch loops going all the way around. When I'm done, I'm going to go flat from this pipe cleaner to the pipe cleaner on row 2, and then we're going to do 12-inch loops going all the way around. My deco mesh is being rolled onto the table, and the first thing I'm going to do is collect the tail. About 2-3 inches in. Make sure that you grab the whole edge and then attach it to a pipe cleaner. I'm going to do 2 tight twists. To secure the tail in place, I'm going to grab a zip tie and I'm going to attach it about 1 inch away from the pipe cleaner. I'm attaching to row 1. You can attach to row 2 if you would like. Cut the tail. If your tail is a little bit wild, that's fine. You could definitely cut that off. Now you have a clean little tail, and we're about to do 10-inch loops. My 10-inch square is this light one right here. So I'm going to start with my pipe cleaner right on the edge and then just make my loop to the other side. And I have my 10 inches. Going to connect it to the next pipe cleaner. This one is the corner one. 2 twists, and off I go, repeating this all the way around. I am making my last loop on the inside row, and I'm going right over the top where I started. A few good twists. And here I'm going to go flat to this next pipe cleaner, just like this, nice and flat. Now I'm going to start making those big 12-inch loops. Let's connect it to the next pipe cleaner. And as you can see, it does a beautiful job of covering the corner. And now I'm just going to continue making 12-inch loops and attaching them to the intersections on row 2. I am making my last loop. I got my 12 inches, and now I'm going to cut off the excess, attaching where we started that second row, and I'm putting my tail towards the inside, and then I'm going to push it between row 1 and 2. Push it in, and I always do this from the back. Then I'm going to grab a pipe cleaner and attach it about 1 inch from that connection. Cut that off. Here is the tail that we started with, and here is the tail where we ended. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up all our poofs. This is going to soften our wreath and really make sure those 21 inches of deco mesh are opened up. To poof these out, I'm grabbing the whole poof and just starting with the edge that's towards the outside and pulling it through. If you're doing it with the other hand, then grab it, find that edge, and then pull it towards the inside. The wreath is all poofed out, and now I'm going to get rid of the pipe cleaners that I don't need. Now, if you want, you can do this later on if you're afraid of removing the wrong ones. So the ones I want to keep are the ones on the corners, and we're going to also use all of the ones on the outside. The ones I don't need are the ones here in the centers. So I'm going to go ahead, find those, twist the pipe cleaner up, and I'm going to cut it short so it's not in the way, and just tuck in that little tail. For my ribbon bundles, I'm starting with my mesh ribbon, and I'm going to cut 12 pieces at 11 inches in length, just using my roller cutter to cut. It seems like that's the best way to do these. I have 12 of these, and I'm not going to be cutting the dovetails on this one because it is mesh. I don't think it's necessary. So now I'm going to be using my Valentine's ribbon. I'm also going to be doing 11-inch strips, but I'm going to make 24 of these. I'm going to zigzag up. To cut these, I'm just going to take the edges, fold in half, and cut out a little triangle, making sure to cut the little folds so that you have 2 pieces, and we're going to do this to both sides. Now I'm ready to make my ribbon bundles, and all I'm going to do is take 2 of these 2.5-inch ribbon, put the mesh ribbon right over the center, bring it together in the center, and attach. And then I'm twisting about 1 inch from the connection, cutting it off, and then just hiding that little tail. This looks beautiful already, and I didn't even open up the little ribbon bundles. And now I'm just going to continue doing the same thing, going all the way around and attaching to all the pipe cleaners that we have. All the ribbon bundles are on, and now I'm going to attach the centerpiece. This metal sign has a hole on top and a hole at the bottom, so I'm going to grab some floral wire, and this one is 22 gauge. I usually like to double this one because it's a little bit on the softer side. I cut off a floral wire piece, and I usually have my floral wire be ridiculously long because I know I can always cut it short. I'm going to twist it in place in the back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach one side of my wire on this intersection, one on here, and then the same thing at the bottom. I feel like that's what's going to make it the strongest. And I'm going to attach it lightly at first until I make sure that it's in the right place. Same thing at the bottom. I'm going to grab 2 sides. One's going to go on one intersection, and the other one's going to go on this one. I actually like the way that looks. All right, I'm going to go in the back and really make sure to lock these in place. Now that the sign is attached, make sure you find the top of the sign and decide where you want to attach the hanging loop. I'm going to attach it on row 2, just some jute cord. We have a little visitor, our little shaved visitor. See you guys? Oh, he's shaved, oh my goodness. And cut off the excess. Everything I need is on. At this point, you can decide if you want to cover the back or not. The way I cover the back is I use 4 strips or 4 pieces of ribbon, and I go around and hot glue in the back. I'm grabbing a 2.5-inch ribbon, and I'm going to measure a little bit of 1 inch on one side, about 1 inch on the outside on this side. So if this is 14 inches, you need about 16-inch strips. And I'm going to need 4 of these. You can also use fabric. You don't have to use ribbon. But when I do use ribbon, I try to get it as close in color to the Deco mesh as possible so it looks nice and seamless. Grabbing my first strip, I'm going to fold it about 1 inch on the side, and I'm going to attach here and here. But because this ribbon is a little bit on the thin side, I'm going to use my little finger protectors. Nice strip of hot glue, fold it over, and I'm just going to pinch it right there. Go to this side, do the same thing. Hot glue straight on the ribbon. The reason I do this in 4 pieces is because this still gives me a chance to fix anything I want underneath, but it does look nice and seamless. So I'm going to go to the next one, fold the edge, and now I'm just going to overlap it. A little bit of hot glue, fold it over, go to this side. It's this easy, and I'm going to continue overlapping all 4 sides. Just look how beautiful, nice and neat it looks in the back. I love it. And now we're going to go to the front, and we are going to do my favorite part, which is open up all our beautiful ribbon bundles. As always, we're going to open them up like a little flower, just like that. Oh, how beautiful. And this little white mesh, even though it's very, very light, I'm telling you, it will give your wreath such a gentleness, such elegance. You will love it. I always try to cover the holes, and so I'm just going to do it with one of my ribbon pieces. I'm done adjusting all the ribbon bundles, and I love that this wreath has a beautiful balance of the background deco mesh and the ribbon. It just makes for such an elegant wreath. for this very sweet Valentine's wreath, I'm going to start out with some pink and white baby breath along with some of these yellow berries. Then I'm going to be using this wooden bead heart wreath from the Dollar Tree along with some ribbon. This one is pink fray ribbon, and then this beautiful ribbon which is 1.5 inch wired edge. I got this one from Craft Outlet. It is ivory in the background with some little polka dots. You can hardly tell, but it matches really nicely with the wooden beads. Let's start with the florals. I'm going to use 4 of these pink ones. I'm not going to be using the greenery, even though I didn't mind the greenery here, but it's not in very good shape. So I'm just going to cut the stems. Then I'm going to need 4 stems of the white and just 2 stems of the berries. Let's set up our bouquet. First, I'm going to take the longest stems, and those are going to be at the end. And if you feel like you need to hot glue them, more than likely, if these are Dollar Tree flowers, you're going to have to. So some hot glue and put the stem in. Then 2 pinks. I want the yellow to be right underneath that top white bundle. Then I'm bringing in the 2 pink. I want these bundles to be kind of close, and then the white on top. And then here I'm just going to bend it, and I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Because we have beads going on and it's not a flat surface, I'm going to zip tie each bundle separately. I'm using my 6-inch zip ties for these. When you are sure your flower bundles are really secure, go ahead and cut the tails off and then cut excess greenery off. At this point, you can definitely grab some floral wire or 2 more zip ties. I have been loving using the zip ties because they're just so easy to work with and they keep things super secure. And I'm just zip tying my floral piece, and I'm going to put my zip tie above the original one, and of course it's going to go in between the beads. My florals are on, and now it's time to make our bow. I'm just going to make 2 simple bows and overlap them. First things first, let's choose how long we want the tail to be, and then we're just going to loop and loop. I'm clamping the bow together, and now let's take the other ribbon. We're just going to overlay that, make 2 small loops, dot of glue right there in between and right here. And now let's just a little dot here and there, grabbing another piece of ribbon, and this one about 2-3 inches. You just want to be comfortable when you're bringing it together. Going to put a dot of glue right here. And now I'm just going to bring it back, squeezing things in the back, bringing it together. We have a beautiful bow going on. Let's get some hot glue inside here and right there. Hot glue it together. And I'm going to hot glue my bow on top right here in the center, right on top of that greenery. And let's attach. The reason I did not make the bow too tiny in the center is because I wanted all that greenery covered up. Now I'm just going to take the pink ribbon and put a little bit of hot glue on it, really lightly. And then I'm going to put it over the other one right in the center, and then I'm going to cut it on an angle. I'm going to do the same thing with the other tail. Make sure that it's the same size as the other one and cut on a little angle. To hang this wreath, I'm grabbing a jute cord, going to tie it on one side and then tie it off on the other side, and you have a very elegant hanging loop. For the scarf wreath, I'm going to be using a 10-inch foam wreath form, an infinity scarf or a regular scarf, whatever you can get your hands on, some dahlia flowers, a beautiful rose clip, but you can definitely use whatever flowers you have on hand that will match the scarf print that you get. And then I will also be using some 8-inch zip ties. Since I'm using an infinity scarf for this wreath, I'm actually going to go ahead and cut the seam Next, I'm going to find where my seam is, and I want that to be on the inside. I'm actually going to just double my scarf so it's a little bit thicker so I can cover the green. Let's take the tag off. Then a few inches in, I'm just going to grab my scarf, and whichever way you're going, you want to make sure that the seam is at the bottom so that every time we come around, we're going to cover that seam, and we're going to go around. With the one I started, I'm going to put it across, and then the one I'm ending with, I'm going to put it the other way. And all I'm going to do is just use a zip tie. You don't even need hot glue at this point. And zip tie it in place, nice and tight. And since we're going to have a big flower right here in the center, I'm going to just push that little part down. I cut off anything that was sticking a little bit too much, and now I just have a wrapped little wreath. I want this to be a very elegant Valentine wreath, so I'm actually not even going to be using any of the greenery, and I'm going to just use 6 of these stems, and I'm cutting them fairly long because I want them to go over so I can unite them right here in the center. Now I'm going to pick the longest dahlia flowers, and I'm going to put them as my ending flowers. Then I'm going to have 2 more and 2 more. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on each of the stems and hot glue them to the inside of the flower. When I'm done with that, I'm going to just bend the flower right there in that little part. Now let's bring our bouquet together. Long, short, short, make a little triangle. Long, short, short, make a little triangle. When your flowers are together, we're going to see where this is going to fit. And then I'm going to bend them all together just like this. Just about 45-degree angle so that they lay really nicely on our wreath form. I'm going to once again grab a zip tie, and I'm going to zip tie everything nice and tight. Cutting off the tail. Now I'm actually going to take this clip off, and what I like to do in these big flowers is, I know it's probably glued, but I'm also going to give a little bit of hot glue on the inside, hot glue on the outside, a very generous amount. And I'm actually going to cut off a little bit of the stem that is showing, but don't forget that I glued it in place. I just want this flower to be a little bit on the flatter side. Now I'm adding a lot more glue to the actual petals, and I'm just going to put this beautiful flower in place. And look how this works together. Even though we have a wild print going on over here on the wreath, the solid colors of the flowers and the simple colors of the flowers really make this wreath work. Now you can just put a jute cord in the back or a floral wire, and we can hang this wreath. This wreath, you're going to need this heart-shaped metal wreath form, and this one is from the Dollar Tree. And then also you are going to need 4 packs of the rectangular tablecloth. You can do whatever colors you want, but what I'm going to do is 2 whites, 1 dark pink, and 1 light pink. The most important part is to make sure that you do get the rectangular one, and this one is 54 by 108 inches, or in metric 1.37 by 2.74 meters. Step 1 in this process is to cut up the tablecloths. When you take your tablecloth out of the package, make sure you don't open it, you don't do anything with it. This is just like it came out of the package. Then I'm going to cut it in half, approximate where my half mark is right here, and just cut it in half. Next, I'm going to cut each half in half. Now our tablecloth is in 4 strips. What we're going to do next is take our side ones, open them up, and cut them in half. Find the center here. Now that our tablecloth is cut into strips, each strip should be anywhere from 1.5 to 2 inches in width. And then what we're going to do is cut each one of our strips in half this way. You should end up with strips that are about 1.5 inches to 6 to 6.5 inches. Grabbing a bundle, and all I'm doing is making it look like little leaves, just like this. And all you're doing is just cutting these petals, and I basically leave an inch in between, and then I end up going up or down. This should not be an exact science. And all I'm making sure is to make sure that I get the tips. If I don't get the tips, and they're going to be connected over here, as I can see some of these are already, that's okay. Just cut the tip right here on an angle and you should be fine. I have all my petals cut up, and the design we're going to do is white, dark pink, white, light pink. That's why we did 2 packs of the white. As far as the wreath form is concerned, I work from the inside out. So starting from this inside ring, the way you put the petals on the wreath form itself is you do it in pairs. So I'm going to start by grabbing 2 of these white ones, and all I'm doing is just tying a knot. And I just do 1 knot. It is not going to go loose. I've done so many of these, and 1 knot is just fine. This is not a slippery type of fabric. This is just plastic, so it'll stand in place. So I have white, grab some pink petals. Don't pull too much, because if you pull too much, you can either rip it or you can stretch it, and there's just no need to. Just tie it, pull it a little taut, and that's it. And you keep on going. 2 more of the white. As far as how many in each section, you just keep on going until it feels nice and full. I'm done with the first row, or the inner row of the heart, and look at this. It looks so full and beautiful. In the back, I go all the way around, and everything is by 2. In the front, look how fluffy it is already. By the time we are done with it, it's going to look absolutely stunning. Now I'm going to start row number 2, which is the middle row. It's a little higher than the other rows, because this row's higher and these 2 are lower, but it doesn't matter. It's just going to make for a full and beautiful wreath. Here we go. This is 2 rows in, and as you can see, you can't even see the outside row. There you go. It is so full and it's so fluffy. And now I'm just, anything that's sticking out on this side, I'm trying to just push it through. And then I'm going to start on the outside edge right here. I'm all done putting the petals on this wreath. It is so pretty. Next, I'm going to just go in the back, and anything sticking out, I'm just going to push it through. The petals that are on this outer row, the ones that are on the inside right here, I'm going to push it through. Any petals that are on top, they're going to be against the wall. They don't need to be pushed out. Just straighten everything out. When you're done doing all of that in the back, you just go in the front and start fluffing things out. This is my favorite part. It feels so fun, and it feels so nice to do this. I wanted to show you what was left from the petals, and as far as the white, I basically have a full tablecloth left. So I recommend just using 1 of each color, which takes it down to only $3 to make this gorgeous wreath, plus $1 for the wreath form itself, and another $1 for our little decor that I'm going to use. How cute is this? So that's a total of $5 for this wreath. Are you kidding me? That is really good. And look how adorable. We were still going to work with this. As far as the leftovers, don't throw these away. You can either do another wreath or save them for maybe Easter, or just save different ones throughout the holidays, and we can make something eventually with all the leftovers. I'm going to put my wreath to the side here, and I'm going to use this little truck that I found at the Dollar Tree. First things first, let's get rid of this little price tag thingy. Then the actual connection here to this little rod, it's pretty solid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to use my wire cutters and cut it down. I finally removed this little rod right here, and I ended up just peeling the little flap that was on top of the rod, and I ended up removing it. Next, there is this little hook. It's really, really soft, and it's to basically hang the little truck if you wanted to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off. Now, this should be the easy part. And it was. You saw that it came off really easily. I'm going to grab my end pliers, and these are going to work really nice. And if you feel like it's a little rough, just grab some sandpaper and sand it down. Next, I'm going to trace the truck with a Sharpie. And the reason I'm doing this is if I just put it like this, it starts to blend in. So what I'm going to do is just really lightly go around the edges and fill that in. And the nice thing is all the hearts are already filled in. They have a little edge on them. So this is just going to look like it's part of our actual project. And then I'm going to fix the wheel just a little bit because this one is going all the way around and this one's not. There you go. And now it looks much better. It stands out. Next, I'm going to use this pink and white buffalo check, and I'm going to make a bow to put right here where you see the XOXO. And I'm going to do it in the way we used to do it in grade school. So here we go. I'm going to make one loop, another loop, kind of making a simple bow, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the little loops, or we used to call them bunny ears, and just loop them right there, tie them, and you have a little bow. How perfect is that? Now we just straighten it out and make it the size that we want. I don't like it in the middle of the hearts. I think I'm going to put it right underneath to kind of make it look like there's a bow and the hearts are behind the bow right there. A little bit of hot glue right there. And then I'm going to grab these little buttons, and I picked out this pink little button, and I'm just going to hot glue it to the center of the bow. I think this little bow is such a charming addition to the truck, but definitely not something that you have to do. It's just something I decided to do just to give it a little bit of volume and a little bit, you know, so the truck is not flat and it's not like a picture. And it does do that, and it works really well with the colors we got going here. So next, I'm going to grab 2 pipe cleaners. Fold them in half. I always do the 2-finger method right here. And then a little bit of hot glue. Hot glue on top. And I'm ready to put my truck on. I'm just going to lay it down where I want it and then just attach it. And I'm just going to move it around a little bit, and there you go. Now that our wreath is all done, I'm going to grab a piece of floral wire, and this is quite thin, so I usually just twist these to make them stronger. I just had a piece left over and I wanted to use it up, but I'm just going to hook it up over here in this middle row because when I hang, I want it to be invisible. So here is what I do. I do one little twist, and then I make this bottom part go up, this top part go down, and then I twist it onto the actual loop. This way I know it's not going to go anywhere and it's fairly secure. Then I'm going to hide this ugly part towards the bottom, and there you go, you have your hook. The base for this wreath is going to be this foam heart from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut off that middle little heart. We don't need it, but I am going to leave that little loop on top because that is what's going to hang our wreath. Next, I'm going to grab this baby breath and I'm just going to cut off the tips. It is up to you if you want to leave it in those little bundles. In some instances, I cut off the greenery and the bundles. It's just up to you. Now we're going to start hot gluing our baby breath to the heart. We're going to start in that middle tip, work our way around and to the bottom. We're going to make it look like the baby breath is laid out, cascading from that top center all the way around and to the bottom. In the beginning, I'm just hot gluing one on top of each other, really not filling anything in. And then towards the end, that is when I started to cut off my baby breath a little closer to the weight and then just inserting it into the little holes and filling it in all around the heart. For the ribbon, I'm going to use this buffalo check gingham ribbon. And I'm just going to make a simple bow. I made sure that my tails were longer than the edges of the heart because I wanted to have the tails go over the heart a little bit. Then I just hot glue in the middle and then use the second little piece and hot glued it over the center of the bow. The contrast of the black and white looked really good on that hot pink and the white. It toned it down a little bit. It brought a little bit of farmhouse in, and I'm not using too many colors. Black is the third color in this project, and it just gives it such a beautiful elegance. For the center of the bow, I decided to hot glue a little pearl sticker, and then for the bow tails, I just cut them on an angle on both sides. I'm going to be using a 14-inch metal wreath form, and then I'm going to be using 4 rolls of this fuchsia pink and 2 rolls of this white deco mesh. Now it's time to attach the deco mesh to our wreath form, but first I'm going to grab some pipe cleaners and cut those in half. And I also like to kind of fold these in half, so when I'm putting them on, it's just easy to grab them and put them on. Then I am going to use a little ruler mat here, and this one's from the Dollar Tree. For $1, this is an amazing deal, and I use these for my bubble method wreath because it's just so easy to measure. Let's go over the basics. The wreath has 6 sections. In each section, we are going to make 7 loops. Each loop is going to be 8 inches long, exactly the length of this little mat. Now I'm going to unroll and layer my deco mesh. When I do this, I do make sure that it bubbles kind of down. So it's not kind of curling up, it's curling down. That way when you're making your bubbles, they're going to stay the way they should. And you kind of just set yourself up for, you know, a good wreath and an easy wreath to make. So I got pink. Next I'm putting white on. Another pink on top. This is just going to be easy when I'm going to be separating them because I want the white to be in the middle. And then I'm going to go about 1 inch in here or 2 and gather. Going in between row 2 and 3, I'm going to put my little tail down just like this. Grabbing a zip tie because I just sleep better at night. Just to show you where I'm going to be attaching it. I'm going to be attaching it right there on the little intersection. So this is going to go down. As far as where we're going to be attaching our bubbles, you can either do row 2, 3, or 2, 3 together. It should hold just fine doing both of them, but I prefer doing either 3 or 2. If you have a centerpiece that you're putting in your wreath and it's a little bit on the smaller side, go for row 2. That way the wreath is going to bring it in just a little bit. If you have a big centerpiece like we have today, you might want to do row 3. So that is what I'm going to be doing. And here we go. I just put my mat right underneath where I'm going to need to measure and just do your 8 inches and bring it up and in. We're going to twist twice on top, go back to the back, twist it in the back, twice also, fold it in half and half again, and then fold it back. As you bring it in, make sure you bubble it up. Grab your pipe cleaner. We're going to twist twice on top and then bring our pipe cleaner to the back. We're going to twist twice in the back, and then we're going to fold it either in half or in 1/4. These seem to be a little longer or something, so I keep on folding them twice. I'm done with my first section. I have 7 loops in this section. I'm going to go ahead and make bubbles for these next 2 sections, and I'll be right back. I'm about to make my last loop in my 3rd section. So basically 3 rolls is enough for half of the wreath. And I just wanted to show you how much I have left here. The white one kind of came up short, but it's going to be perfect to finish. There you go. The white is perfect to finish the wreath here. And of course, because this is my ending little bubble, I'm going to use a zip tie. And I'm going to zip tie it to row 3. To attach the second section, what I like to do is, since we have attached the ending of this section in row 3, I'm going to go ahead and go in row 2. And same thing, remember how we did the intersection? Same thing. And this is what the connection looks like. We have this section ending and connected in row 3. This one beginning in row 2 right there. They're both on the intersections right here. And when we open this up, this is not going to be shown. It'll be hidden, but you know that it's nice and secured. Now I'm just going to continue making the same 8-inch little bubbles or loops. I'm on my last loop over here, grabbing 8 inches, and this is how much tail I have left. Grabbing my little zip tie here, and I'm going to go between row 2 and 3, but in the lower intersection, because we started on right there on the 3rd one. Now it's time to open up our little bubbles. And the way I recommend doing it is doing it from the bottom. Since I already layered how I want them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do each bubble from inside out. So from the inside, I'm going to first take my pink one. And what I like to do is pull it down. This is going to prevent fraying as you're going along. Then I'm going to grab my white one, pull that one down. And then my outer pink is going to go towards the back. So my front one, middle is the white, and the top one is going to go towards the outside of the wreath. For the centerpiece, I'm going to be using the sign from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I did was remove the twine where it was hanging. And what I did was I grabbed some lightweight spackling and I put some on top. And the trick with this is make sure you overfill it just a little bit, because as spackling dries, it's going to shrink a little bit. So when it's going to dry, I'm going to sand it down and we're ready to paint it. Now that this is sanded, I'm going to grab my love sign, and this is a kit that Dollar Tree has, and I'm just going to pull out the little love sign, and as you can guess, it's going to go right here. And this part I'm going to eventually paint with this brilliant magenta. Just find a color that's closest to whatever mesh you're going to use. But before I color it with this color, I'm going to paint both pieces white. And the reason I do this is going to be much brighter, and it's going to take less coats if you give a nice white coat, kind of like a primer, to your sign. Before I paint my love sign, I'm just grabbing a dowel. You could also grab the back of a paintbrush, that's fine too. But I like to use a dowel because it's flat and my circles have more chances of being basically pretty equal throughout. So I'm just going to grab some paint and we're going to make little dots. You can make little lines, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to make little polka dots because, well, I love polka dots. Even though my color matches the wreath really well, when it dries, it kind of is coming up a little bit on the redder side. So what I'm going to do for my actual wording is I'm going to add a little bit of white to lighten it up. And then we're going to paint. To attach my sign to the wreath, I'm just going to be using some pipe cleaners. Now it's time to put my sign on my wreath. I think that looks pretty good. For this wreath, you're going to need some chenille wires, you're going to need some Deco mesh, you're going to need a heart wreath form. This one is from the Dollar Tree. And then we are going to use mesh. This is optional because I'm going to attach it to the center, and it depends on what you want to put in the center, whether you're going to need this or not. The mesh I usually use is from Joann's. I tried to catch it on sale, of course, and it's 10.5 by 13.5 inches. If you haven't seen these, they're a little bit on the tougher side, and I like them because whenever you need to fill in a space, these are a great way to do that. Before I get started, I like to measure out how much of this mesh I'm going to need, and I just go a row outside of the area where I'm going to be attaching it, meaning there's a row here that when I'm attaching it, I have something for it to hold on. And then just using a marker, and this one is just a Sharpie, I'm just marking on the outside where I need to cut. And you want to do a permanent marker. I might not even show really well on camera because you're just, you know, marking on the actual plastic little squares and it's hard to tell. You can attach this to the actual wreath form by either using zip ties or short pipe cleaners. To attach, I put my wreath form upside down. I'm going to put my little heart right there. And because I'm going to be filling in the space on the inside, I like to attach. As you can see here, I attached it about every 2 inches. And then I'm going to tie them all in the front of the wreath so that the back can be nice and smooth. I'm going to give it 2 twists and I'm going to fold like I usually do so it's nice and neat like this. All right, and we're all done with that. Now we're going to move on to our Deco mesh. Let's go over the basics of the Dollar Tree Deco mesh. Each Deco mesh is 6 inches in width and 5 yards in length. And we're going to be cutting our Deco mesh in 12-inch strips today. And those strips are going to make 15 bows. So you should have 15 strips of 12 inches each in each of the Deco mesh rolls. To cut my Deco mesh, I'm going to be using a rotary cutter, but you can of course use scissors. And this outer square on my mat right here is 12 inches. So that is how I'm going to measure and cut my Deco mesh. For your pipe cleaners, you can either cut them in half or in 1/3. I like to cut them in 1/3, but that's my personal preference. And as you can see, that's going to be 4 inches for my little pipe cleaners, because these are 12-inch pipe cleaners, and that's pretty much the standard for them. And then when I'm done cutting them, I like to fold them and make little V's, and they're ready to be put on the bow. Now let's make a Nadia method bow. I'm grabbing one of my strips here, and I'm just going to walk it out from the inside with my fingers until the outside edges overlap about 1.5 inches, no more than 2 inches. I'm going to pinch on top, pinch at the bottom, and bring it straight down to the center of the loop that I made. On top, I'm going to hold it right here, really nice and tight. On this side right here, I'm just going to start walking it up right here, and you have the little bow. This is our smooth end, and that's where I'm coming in with my pipe cleaner, and I'm just going to fold it over and then twist, and you have a nice, beautiful bow. Let's make another bow. Walking it out until it's overlapping about 1.5 inches. Pinch on top, pinch at the bottom, bringing it down, holding with one finger on top securely in place. With my other hand and fingers, I'm going to walk that center right up and kind of folding it like an accordion. This is our smooth side. We're going to grab a pipe cleaner, put it over right here, and then to ensure that it's nice and secure, I'm just going to fold the bow in half, and then right here I'm going to give it 2 good twists at least, or 3, and there you go. You have a perfect little bow. I have 3 rolls of the pink and 2 rolls of the white all ready to go. And since there are 15 bows per Deco mesh roll, there's going to be 30 that I'm going to be putting on this middle row right here. A few twists, then I'm going to fold it over and back. The 2 rolls of Deco mesh was just perfect for this middle row right here. And so this is how I dispersed it. I have 3 on this section on top, 3 on the bottom, 5 right here, and right there on that little corner or the top of the heart, I have 7. I wanted these to be quite full. Now, when you look at it from the front, don't forget, we still have 3 rolls of the pink that are going to go on the outside, and some of those are going to push this heart in a little bit. So this section is going to get closed up just a little bit. So in retrospect, this is really full. Now I'm going to start putting the pink on. All the Deco mesh is in, and I think it looks so pretty. Here in the back, I have 11 on the hard part, on the top part, 3 on top, 5 at the bottom. And then on the sides, I have 7 right here on each side. Now we're going to do the center. Of course, you can do whatever you want, whether you put a little sign in here, or maybe you take a little bit more of this Deco mesh and put it in the center. That would be nice too. I decided to go a little bit more towards the elegant side, and I'm going to grab these peonies from the Dollar Tree, and I'm probably going to do 2 packs or 2 little bushels, because I do want to make sure that it's nice and full there. And what I'm going to do is this little thing right here on the flower, you can push it through. So I'm just going to start putting them in. And of course, don't push it. See where you're going and give a little pressure right there. And as you can see, it's sticking out. And so where it's sticking out, I'm just going to put some hot glue around it later on. But I do want to make sure that all the flowers are in before I do that. In all honesty, it can stay there because it's kind of it's kind of, you know, it's not on the loose side because those little squares are smaller than our little tip of the flower right there. And just fill it in. The flowers are filling in so nicely, and it gives such an elegant touch to the dark pink. You need to lighten the dark pink up, and this is just perfect to do that. Now you can go in with your hot glue and just hot glue all around the edges right here if you want, but I'll show you something. You kind of almost don't need to, because I'm literally picking up the wreath and tangling it with the flowers. That's how strong the little netting is holding our flowers. So you really don't need to, because it really is stuck on there really, really well. Now I'm just going to go around and fluff everything out, and I want to make sure that this does look like a heart, and I want my white edges to be a little bit on the softer end, so anything sticking out like that, I'm going to bring it back and then just play around with it until it looks beautiful, and we have another Valentine's wreath. For this project, I will be using a 9-inch willow wreath, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a coat of white chalk paint, and I'm using the Rust-Oleum in linen white, and I'm going to set it aside to dry for a few hours. Next, I'm grabbing 2 bushels of the amaranthus florals from the Dollar Tree. I'm only going to be using the white ones, taking them off the stem. For this wreath, I am going to be cutting those ends off, and I'm going to be cutting them off as close to the white as possible. Next, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hot gluing these branches. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just going along the lines of the actual wreath, and starting from the inside, working my way out. And basically what I'm doing here is making it look like this wreath was put together along with these branches. So I'm just following the twists of the wreath and hot gluing the branches, going around and around. If I was using this wreath somewhere in a wedding, I would just leave it as is. But this is a Valentine's wreath, so I decided to grab these vase fillers, and I'm going to be using just the pink ones and the white ones because I wanted to keep it elegant and sweet. So all I'm doing is just grabbing different sizes of the pink and the white and hot gluing it all around the wreath. For the finishing touch of this wreath, I will be using this boa that I got at the Dollar Tree during Halloween. And I'm just going to take these feathers, and using just the soft areas, I'm going to cut the feather into about 1 to 2 inch pieces. And then I'm going to be using little tweezers and just folding the little piece in half, putting some hot glue on it, and just sticking it throughout the wreath. And I'm just going to be going all around the wreath and filling up little empty areas in between the branches of the wreath. This gave the wreath such an elegant look, and I feel like in person it just looks so complete and beautiful. I don't think it shows like that on camera, but I promise you guys, in person it looks absolutely stunning, and it looks like it does not need anything else. So for this wreath, I'm starting with a heart wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Then I'm going to start with 4 of the white Deco mesh and 2 of these. Usually do 6 to 7 inches, so my 6 inches is right here, and I just cut it. I am going to use chenille wires from Hobby Lobby, but you can also get them at the Dollar Tree. I'm gonna fold those in half. They cut fairly easy. Here we go. I'll grab 3 and I'll do my first curl. And I've done this differently. I've done it where I would curl it and put it in a paper clip. I've done it where I would curl it and put it in some sort of, you know, clothespin or something. But I have been using my fingers for the longest time. I just, you know, I find it's the easiest and fastest. Okay, I got my 3 curls and I just crisscross them. Grab a chenille wire, and when I tighten in the back, I really tighten it. I put my finger right here and kind of twist it over my finger. That way it brings all of this together, and I know it's nice and tight. Basically, I'm going to make 4 packs of these, and I'm going to be doing the same thing, cutting them and then making bundles of 3. I have all of my little bundles made up, and I'm going to be putting my bundles on this middle ring and the outer ring. I'm not sure how many I'm going to need. I'm just going to start putting them on, and I will tell you at the end how many I ended up using, because I make a lot of these wreaths, but I've never made it on a heart form, so it's a little different because all my sections are not the same. Okay, the last one I am going to put on the corner, which is on actually the first one, because I kind of wanted to go in a little bit. So instead of putting it on the second and third, I am putting this last one on the first. And just so you guys know, I used up actually 6 rolls. Now if you don't think it's full, that's fine, because we are using the edge or the last row. As you can see, all my curls are going in, but when you hang this wreath, all of this is gonna go out and it's going to get filled. Do you see what I mean? It's going to get nice and full once you hang it up. Now we're grabbing this decorative mesh, and once again, I'm just going to cut into 6-inch strips. And then what I'm going to do is grab more of my chenille stems, and I'm going to cut them in half. All right, so I have my little chenille wire, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect and kind of like make a little bow. Pull it up and twist. Before I bring it together, I wanted to show you that there's really no right or wrong way to do this. There is no edging on the edge right here, and there's no edging, you know, obviously where you cut. So it doesn't matter how you bring the bow together, which way. Just bring it together, scrunch it in the middle, and just do a little twist, do the little pom-pom, and that is going to go in between our curly mesh on the wreath. I have all of these little bows made up. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to put these in between the 2 rows that we made. I'm just going to go from the bottom, wiggle my way in, grab the little bow, and then just attach it to whichever you want. I'm going to attach this one to the outer edge over here, to the 3rd row from the inside, and that's it. It really doesn't matter where you attach it. Because of all these little snow things, it'll catch on, it'll stay in place for sure. I'm just going to go all the way around. For the center of the wreath, I decided to use one of these hearts, and it came on this kind of like a string of hearts that the Dollar Tree has. So as usual, I'm going to use 2 chenille stems. I like this flat, so I'll just do this, put this on here. All right, my little heart is nice and dry. I'm just going to squeeze it in here, and it's just going to go like that. You can use obviously whatever you have, whatever you want. I just had this heart on hand, and I thought it would be really cute. And I'm just going to attach it to the first loop. I always do this part really lightly, so that way, you know, in case it's not in the center, or I have it too tight, or it needs to be loosened up. So I just kind of do this really loosely, then check what it looks like, if it's standing up nicely, and it looks nice and tight and actually really perfect. So there you go, and we are done with this Valentine's wreath. For our coffee filter wreath, we're going to need a few basic things. Of course, we're going to need our coffee filters, a wreath form, hot glue gun, and of course, hot glue sticks. Let's go over the specifics on those. As far as your coffee filters, it depends how big your wreath form is. You're going to need anywhere from 200 to 500 and even more if you're using a really big wreath form. As far as the wreath form, this wreath form is from the Dollar Tree. This is the most common one at the Dollar Tree. It's 9.8 inches or 24 centimeters. And there's one really important thing you want to remember before we start making this wreath is this wreath form has a coated layer. It's a layer that protects the foam and kind of makes it stronger. And the most important thing when using a hot glue gun on this wreath form is you want to make sure that you're using a low temperature glue gun. Here's the reason why. If you're using a high temperature glue gun, there's a chance you're going to penetrate this kind of surrounding protective layer. And once you pass that, you're not going to be able to glue anything because it's basically thick foam. But the only way to hot glue to this wreath form is actually on this protective layer using a low temperature hot glue gun. If you have a hot glue gun that has settings on it, low and high, you just go to the low and it's going to be the same heat as this one. Now let's get started on making our little ruffles here. The reason I have my measuring mat is to show you how big my filters are. And these are almost 10 inches. So let me just fold these really quickly in half. There you go. So almost 5 inches, so 9 3/4 in length. So these are pretty standard. Okay, to get started on this, there's a few ways to fold our little ruffles. A lot of people fold them in half, then fold them in half again, and then they'll either fold them in half again or they'll curl it. Whatever you want to do is fine. And some people, when they fold it like this, they'll just kind of do a little fold in the middle right here. And that is how they're going to hot glue it and go all the way around. You can definitely do that. Today, I'm going to what I call is a fun method. So when you have your coffee filter, you kind of find your center. And what I like to do is I find my middle. When I find my middle, all I do is I bring one side in to the center, the other side to the center, find my middle and kind of squeeze it. When I found my middle, squeeze it, I kind of start turning it. And I make this kind of like a little leaf right here. And this is what I'm going to attach. The reason I do this is I call this kind of lazy method and a fun method because you can definitely do this with your kiddos, with your grandkids. Look at this. I fold it in half. I bring one side in. I bring the other side in. Very nice. It still has the ruffle. Then I kind of crunch it in the middle right here. And then with this one, I'm just trying to kind of flatten it out to make a little petal and twisting it. Did you see how I twisted it just a little bit? That way, this is all secure, and when I hot glue it, it's not gonna go anywhere. When it's going to be pushed against some other ones, see how it is? Bam, we already have one for me. And I'm just going to continue doing this. There you go, ruffle, ruffle, middle, and I'm just going to kind of flatten and twist at the same time. You see one hand is going one way, the other one's going the other way. And then I'm going to bend it up because this is the part where we're going to hot glue it. Fold it in half or find your middle somehow. There you go. Bring it up, kind of squeeze in the middle and just kind of, there you go. And you're gently kind of twisting because you don't want to really torque it because you're going to rip the actual paper right here. So that's why I'm just gently kind of torquing and then bam. That's it. Find my center, bring it in, find your middle, with the other hand, kind of hold it and kind of twist as I'm going along. And I'm just kind of, the reason I keep on doing this is as it's going around, you're crunching all of that. There you go. And then you just kind of sit it up and do like a 90-degree right here. And this is fun. Don't you think this is fun? I think it's fun. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep on making my little bundles right here. And just twist, twist, twist. And a 90-degree angle. All right, my friends, now it's time to protect your little fingers. And I get these finger protectors at the Dollar Tree. They come 3 for $1. Really, really nice. All right. I have some of these. There's so many of them. I basically have 2 boxes of these. I'm not quite sure how many I have, but here we go. I'm going to start, and the way I go is basically we're going to go in kind of these loops right here, starting in the middle. And do you see it doesn't go through this upper layer of the foam right here? And we're just going to start hot gluing them. Every other layer I'm going to go in between. Here's what I mean. I have 1, 2, 3. Then this next layer is going to be right on top, pretty much. 1 and 2. And then again, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And then again, 1, 2. So I have 1, 2, 3 here. Next, I'm going to move about ½ an inch down. And then 2 right there in between. As I'm making this wreath, I had to stop and just kind of take a moment to take in how absolutely stunning this is. Any holiday. I mean, really, you put an orange ribbon, you have fall. You put a pink one and you have spring or yellow, you know. You put a red one, you got Valentine's or Christmas. If you're coming to an area where there's nowhere to put the actual petal, the actual part right here, so what I do is I actually fold it up, just hot glue it up, and then hot glue the ending. And just stick it in place. And anywhere you feel like it's empty or it needs a little bit more, which using the method I've been using, I don't feel like I need to fill anywhere in. You can't see the green wreath, nothing like that. To hang the wreath, you can do one of few things. You can just grab a ribbon, and for winter, this would be pretty, and just hot glue it on itself and just hang it like that, and it'll be so pretty. Whatever the holiday you're going to use it for, you could do that. I'm going to kind of do it differently. I want this to be floating. So I'm going to go in the back. I'm just going to pick a spot, and I'm going to grab a thick gauge wire here and just go through the center of my wreath form. Cut it off. And then I'm going to twist once. And then what I like to do is the left one will go to the right one will go to the left, and then continue twisting, and that'll lock it in place. And I'm just going to turn it around so all that mess is on the inside. And if anything's sticking out, what I do is just I literally poke it straight into the wreath. And then right here, I'm going to give it a little bit of hot glue just to kind of seal it in place, because that's what it's going to be hung on. And on the other side, just seal all that wire in place. Let it cool. I'm going to give this top one a little twist. There you go, and that is how I'm going to hang it with that little loop. As you can see, my hot glue has dried right there. And now I'm going to do one more step, but look at this wreath. You do not have to. You could leave it just like it is. And just, oh, how beautiful. What I want to do is I want to grab some rose gold. I'm going to be using the rose gold by Craft Smart here. Give it a little shake there. Then I'm going to grab a shabby brush, and we're going to dry brush it on our wreath. So I'm going to tap it a little bit, and I don't want it to be too much. That's why I have my little towel right here in case I have too much on it. And we're going to just kind of brush it like this. It's going to have a little rustic feel to it, but depending on how the light is going to hit it, It's going to glisten a little bit because of the gold that's in this color. And I'm doing it very lightly. No pressure, nothing. Just very, very lightly. So here is the wreath with my rose gold. And here it is without, but it just brings out those curls and those ruffles, and it looks so absolutely beautiful. I'm going to be using this Premium Home Raffia from the Dollar Tree, and this one has been colored pink, and this seems kind of sturdy. This is me really like pulling on it. So I am going to try, we're going to wrap it all around this wreath, and then we're going to decorate it. Just a dollop of hot glue to set it in place before I start wrapping this. I think to make my life easier, I'm going to do this in pieces. And from time to time, I'm just going to give it a little bit of hot glue so it stays in place. And I'm going to take my time. This is so relaxing. All right, so here is what I found out about this quote-unquote raffia. This is not really raffia, as in, you know, the original kind of raffia. This is paper. I mean, and the cool part about this, it's strong. Look at this. I did this whole thing right here, and it was so easy. And by the way, when you're going around, make sure you pick a side where you're going to have things that are kind of ending. Now, this is my very last one. I tried to hide as much as I could behind, so you could actually not even really tell, but you know, the last one, there's so much you can do. All right, I kind of opened up the raffia, and then I'm going to take a piece of jute cord. I measured how much I wanted the height because I'm going to hot glue it actually so it sits in the spot, but I wanted to hide the fact that this is a jute cord. Very, very quickly, lightly, I'm just going to hot glue the jute cord and kind of hide it. Just kind of like this. So I'm just doing it in the middle. That way we can like wrap it around. And I'm going to hot glue this piece right on top. See, this way it's nice and strong and you're going to be able to hang it, but you cannot tell that there's a jute cord in between. And here's my back. Since I have this little thing right here, I think I'm going to cover that up even further. We're going to decorate this really, really simply here. I have the little Valentine's felt flowers. And I'm going to get 3 of these out. I'm going to put the pink ones on the sides right here. So I'm going to flatten them out a little bit. And then the purple one is going to go in between. This one's a little bigger. Maybe I'll use this. Oh, that's pretty, you guys. It is that simple, you guys. How pretty is this? Oh, I'm so in love with this. To get started on this wreath, you're going to need a few things. Now, this is a wire form from the Dollar Tree. It is 14 inches, and I was lucky enough to get a beige one because they're usually that dark green color. Then you're going to need some 21-inch deco mesh and some chenille stems. And also, I do always start my, if I do a bubble wreath, I always start and end with a zip tie just to make sure you have a nice secure hold. Because of the holidays or something, I'm not sure why, I have not been able to get any new deco mesh from the Dollar Tree. So I am actually going to my regular stash here, and this is so beautiful. Look how bright and like iridescent it is. So to get started, I'm going to unwrap it just a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just about 1 inch to 2 inches just to have a nice tail. I'm just walking it up to the middle and then to the top. I try to kind of keep it as straight as I can. To tie this to my wreath, I usually like using either the second or the third intersection right here. So I'm going to go to the third row, and I'm just going to push my deco mesh down and come on in with my zip tie. I'm going to push it down so it's nice and smooth up here. And I usually like to order my zip ties from Amazon, and because I know it's nice and secure, it's going to hold it. I just feel like the Dollar Tree zip ties are not strong enough. Okay, let's have some fun here. Before I start making my loops, I'm going to get my pipe cleaners and cut them in half. They cut fairly well with scissors. Sometimes I use wire cutters, not a big deal. To get started on the bubble, I'm somebody who likes, I guess, my deco mesh to go the way it's supposed to in the beginning, so I don't fuss around with it too much as I'm going along. So my bubble is always going to be going this way. It's going to look like a bubble, and I just kind of take the ends, bring them in, and I measure out my 10 inches. My 10 inches is this bar right here. So I know I'm going from here to here. I'm going to bring it in. And obviously you can do, 8 inches. You could do 12 inches. It all depends on the look you're going for. I'm grabbing my pipe cleaner and I'm going to work on the third row. Some people like to grab 2. I feel more comfortable when it's a single row. It doesn't have that room to move around, but it's just me. You can definitely do both of these rows. I just feel like it's more secure with that one. I'm going to give it 2 twists, and I'm going to push it down. Look at this. Isn't this a beautiful bubble? And I really didn't have to do anything. It's already formed. And we are going to push it to the side. And there is the side view of my little bubble. And since I started with my edges kind of on the inside, see how they're kind of on the inside already? It's just going to be easy. It's just going to follow my direction here. And this wreath can definitely be used for holidays and events like weddings, especially because of this beautiful white mesh that has iridescence to it. Definitely can use it for weddings and, life events, I guess. I'm just going to give it 2 more twists and then kind of bring the wires together and then fold them in half. It's just nice, quick, and it gets all the sharp ends out of the way so it doesn't scratch your wall, door, wherever you're going to hang it, and it looks nice and neat. This is 6 loops, 6 10-inch loops in this one section. I think I'm going to add 1 more, but honestly 6 should be just fine. It also depends on the color that you're using. The darker the color, it's going to look better. But just because this is a white wreath, I'm going to give it 1 more loop just to make sure that it just has a nice full look to it. You can do this any way you want, but what I like to do is after I'm done with a particular section, I just go back and fluff out that area. With the white one, I want to make sure that each section has enough poof and enough of the deco mesh. So that is why I'm going back and I'm just making sure that it's enough. This is what the wreath is looking like so far. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go all the way around, complete it, doing the same steps. And then I will be right back and we'll do a little bit of a bow decor. And yes, I did use a pipe cleaner, but I'm also going to use a little zip tie. I do these kind of twists where it goes from one end to another, and then I'll take them and I kind of do like almost like an S right there, and it fills up that space. And what it also does is, you know, it's going to get thicker in that area, so the nice thing about it is it's going to cover the wire form, especially if you can't find this like beige one and you're using the green one. This is what I was talking about when I was saying that I have my own little spin on it, and it's doing these. You usually don't find people doing this, but I feel like when you do this, besides getting full and stuff, it has this beautiful kind of overall look on top of it. Wreaths are so much fun and you could experiment with them, and I definitely do, and I enjoy it. Today we're going to be making a loop bow. This bow is amazing if you have ribbon that's left over, like I have this Easter one. Then I have this one left over. This, I have a lot of this, so I'm not, that's not a leftover. I just wanted a little bit of like a rustic feel to it. But really it's going to be an elegant wreath because look at these together. It's going to be lovely. So basically the basic one, or the most important one, is this one. It is a wired ribbon that I got at Joann Fabrics a very long time ago. And the first thing you want to do is you want to measure how much you want your loop to be. I usually eye it and I say, this looks good. Then that is my length. I measure my length, and let me see here. It's gonna be 20 inches, which is fine. So I'm going to get at least 3 for now, and then see if I want to do any more. And so that means I want 20 inches of the other one. And I'm also going to make 3 of these. And this is just one of the simplest bows you can make. If you have a hard time making bows, this is the bow for you, I promise. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make ducktails everywhere. And I just fold it in half and do this. I'm going to go to the other side. Starting with my thickest ribbon, I'm going to fold it in half first. But don't pinch it right here because this is your loop. Here, this is where you decide how big you want it, and then measure how big your loop is going to be. Let's make it, let's make it 5. So 5, that means I have a 10-inch loop, 5 on each side. Make sure this is nice and fluffy, and then I put it in between my fingers at the point where I'm going to bring it all together. Next, I'm going to fold this in half just to make sure I have my middle. So start with the tails and then go about midway up. Now I'm just measuring, I have my 5 inches, there you go, and bring it together. I do this usually by eye, but if you want to measure, that's fine too. Bring it together, measure your approximate 5 inches, and then keep on layering it until you're all done. So this is what it looks like when it's all together. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of zigzag it together. And this is where you want to bring your muscles. You want to make sure you get it nice and tight. If you want to use a zip tie for this, I highly recommend it. Now I'm going to start fanning this out and just start opening up the bow. And some of them try to twist them so they're facing forward. Is it starting to look like a bow yet, you guys? These tails are going to be so pretty. And this is what's going to kind of fill the bow in. I am going to throw some tails up, but before we get too far, let's grab a chenille wire, and we're just going to do one twist so we have something to attach to our wreath, but let's just have fun here. Okay, now that my bow is fluffed up more or less, I'm going to attach it to the wreath, and I want my tails, or the majority of the tails, to be kind of facing down. And I'm going to attach it between the second and third row. And it's going to fill in that space. We kind of didn't have enough of our deco mesh in. And now I'm just going to straighten it out as much as I can. The next thing I'm going to do is I have these little glitter berries from Easter. And I wanted to incorporate them in between the bow, because as I said, this is going to be a little bit like on the shabby side. So we want to make it pretty. I am going to remove the greenery here because I just want the little berries. And the reason I'm keeping them kind of long is because I'm going to put them through the bow, but then I need to twist them around the wreath. Just starting here and there. Just going to poke through. Right there. And so in the back, I'm just going to twist around my wreath form, and make sure that as you're twisting, the side that's sharp is going inside the wreath. And your berries are nice and secure, but also it is safe in the back. Because the bow will automatically push these sides apart, I'm going to take a pipe cleaner, put it through a little bit of the deco mesh on both sides, just like this. I kind of loop them on, and I'm going to loop it around that last row. That way I know it's going to be secured and in place, and it's not going to pull apart. And then just work a little bit of the mesh right here in, and now it's fully covered. Play around, make sure you have the loops the way you want them, the berries are in the right place that you want them to be, and that's it. For this wreath, I'm going to be using this bamboo wreath from the Dollar Tree, and it's about 12 inches. As you can see, it's not really an even 12 inches, but that's all right. I will also be using floral wire to attach the florals to the wreath. And the florals I'll be using are these green hydrangeas, rose little bushels from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to grab wire cutters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it right here. 3 of these bushels per each. And I'm going to get one long one to put on top, and then another shortish one. Okay, so the long one I'm going to put on top. Then I'm going to put one short one right here. And that's gonna bring out that rose, and then one right here. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of wire and just wrap it around. Because it's almost like an egg shape here. I'm going to make this my bottom because the flowers are going to fill this area up right here, and you're not gonna be able to tell that it's kind of, well, crooked. So the next thing I want to do is I want to shape it to the wreath, and we're just gonna bend it. We're just going to bend it whichever direction this is going, for example right here. And for now I'm just going to shove it in between the twine. We'll attach it later. Grabbing more wire, attaching the florals straight onto my wreath. Now we're going to decorate the area in the middle with a bow, and I wanted to keep this farmhouse. I'm going to use 2 pieces, and I call this type of bow a Christmas bow. I'll tell you why. It's because the way I put it together. I did want to shabby this up a little bit, so I'm going to take about 2 strands from the edges. I have another piece for the tail. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these 3 pieces, grab ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to overlap the ribbon here a little bit. And what you want is about 1/2 inch on the edge, so you can put it over and hot glue it in the back. I'm just going to put it over and hold it there. This is going to get hidden anyway, so this is really not a big deal. All right, I'm going to do this to all 3 of the pieces. Time to put it together. This is where you decide how big you want the bow to be. I'm going to bring it together. You want the 2 big ones to be the same size. This is how a Christmas bow is pretty much made. Fold this in half to the front, and fold the sides. Since I don't have 10 hands, I'm just going to tie this with a wire real quick. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Fold it in half, and then to the side and to the side. Another piece of wire, and bring these two together. So Christmas bow is where you take a loop, and then another piece for the tail. Find my center, bring it together to the sides, attach to the bottom. I left my tail of the wire longer when I was putting these two loops together so that I could bring it over, tighten it in the back. Now that I feel that it's nice and secure, I'm going to grab another piece of this ribbon and bring it together. And all of a sudden you have a very pretty little bow. It would be smart to do this part before, but apparently, well, I didn't. I fed a wire through, as you can see, and then I'm going to... All right, now that I have my wire twisted, I'm just going to put it straight onto my wreath. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for being here and sticking around. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing for more wreath tutorials. I make many themes, many seasons, and of course, many styles of wreaths. As for Rocky and me, we're going to say thank you so much and have a beautiful and blessed day. Bye, everyone. Mwah! Mwah! Bye, guys.